Good evening and welcome to the February 20th, 2017 Board of Commissioner meeting. At this time, the Reverend Cooper from Currituck Bible Baptist Church is going to give us the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can all stand, please. Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Father, we thank you for bringing us here this evening. We thank you for providing us with such a beautiful day in the middle of February. We thank you for allowing us to live in this great community of Currituck County. Ask now that you will have your spirit move among the people in this meeting this evening, creating a spirit of cooperation, and allow the business that needs to be conducted as quickly and efficiently as possible. We ask that you give our commissioners the wisdom they need to guide our community into the future, to help it remain a beautiful, glorious county that it always has been. Help us to remain the great, bright lighthouse that Currituck County always has been to the state of North Carolina. We thank you for all this, Lord, in the precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Quick note, if we can make sure all cell phones are turned off, that'd be great. Thank you. Our first item this evening is approval of the agenda.
Motion for approval.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Hearing none, motion is approved unanimously. The next item is public comments. If you could, please keep your public comments to 3 minutes. Please use the light as your guide. We do have a lot to go over this evening, so I appreciate if you would respect that time. Thank you so much. The first person that will be called this evening is Cole Barlow. If you would please come up and state your name and your address, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cole Barlow. I live at 186 Pleasant Woods Drive. I'm a 13-year resident of Currituck, North Carolina, and I'd like to say that I'm here today to talk to you about the Industrial Hemp Pilot Program. In 2014, the Federal Farm Bill allowed for states to choose whether they will grow hemp for market and research purposes. Before I go any further, I'd like to say that hemp is not to be confused with marijuana. Unlike its cousin, it lacks an abundance of the compound that produces psychoactivity, or the high, and is utilized for industrial means. It has an incredible amount of uses from rope to soap, but never dope, and things like car doors and houses. Both North Carolina State and North Carolina A&T universities are going to begin researching this plant for industrial and medicinal purposes this year. And according to agmarketingresourcecenter.org, the United States consumed $581 million worth of imported hemp in 2013. That's imported hemp that our farmers and processors could be producing locally. In Kentucky, returns for hemp range from a low of negative $52 per acre for fiber production to a positive $622 per acre for seed. Hemp is an alternative to current crops grown by our farmers and will stand to benefit both the health of our economy and our soil. The cultivation of hemp will follow a rotation of crops like soybean or wheat. As any other rotation, it would need less water than cotton, produce a softer fabric, and with natural resistance to pests, the need for pesticides are next to none. After harvesting hemp, the hull that is left over on the ground will put nutrition back into the soil. Kentucky in 2014, the first year of production, started with a mere 33 acres of hemp, and in just 2 years are now at 4,500 acres. Hemp has saved many farms and provided their communities with jobs. It's in Currituck's best interest that we follow their lead as well. Thank you for your time today, and if anyone has any questions regarding this, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. John Decker.
John Decker, 130 Longhorn Drive, Moriac. I'm here about the solar farm, which I've been here before. I got some pictures that I like to enter into, evidence with all the dust, the lighting. We were told by the solar farm people that they were going to have a regular working hours. Now, my regular working hours is 8, maybe 10 hours, but they were working all night long. And this here went on for months, okay? And everything that I brought up at the first meeting, I'm bringing up now. The noise, the lighting, the dust, the flooding now, which I didn't bring up before. We have more flooding now since that solar farm came in than we had, period, okay? Now, the workers over there, now we live right next to the canal. There's foul language. We were told that they weren't going to use any chemicals. They use chemicals to kill off all the vegetation over there. And then the burning. They gave none of us any notice about them burning. Now we're talking 1,000 acres. Okay? This wasn't a small burn. It was a very large burn. Most of us over there, we have horses, animals. The police was called numerous times about the noise and the lighting situation. And my concerns are that the next one, the next solar farm that gets built, that I don't want to see any more residents have to go through this, what we went through. And we're still going through it. I don't know how many times I've called the environmental people. Numerous times. And it just seems like that some of the residents of this county has no say what goes on. And with that, I like to enter these. I got pictures of everything. There's a lot of them has their times on, and those are the things that we're going through right now, and which we were promised that this wasn't going to happen, but somebody dropped the ball here somewhere, and that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Gail Aspinwall. Pass. Barbara Snowden.
Barbara who?
I'm sorry. I'm reading.
It's Barbara Bazitsky.
I think that
Barbara.
Yeah, it's me. I'm Barbara R. Bazitsky. I live at 101 Mustang Trail. Everything that John said is extremely true. The glare. I'm driving home in the middle of the afternoon and I can't see. I have to pull over the road and wipe my eyes because of the dust. They have hired 2 people that I know of, 2 men. They fired 2 men. They don't hire our locals. They do nothing, absolutely nothing for the locals. They have increased the tax for the county, but they don't do anything for us. Louise is here. Yes, it has been a big boost for restaurants, but that's not a permanent thing. They do not do anything for the residents of Currituck County. Nothing. They have lied to us. They have done everything they possibly can to do everything backwards. They just are not the kind of people we need in this town. If they had built that solar farm and put it on a church.
Barbara, let me interrupt you real quick. This is not part of the case.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it won't be part of the record associated with it.
Yeah.
I can rattle my head, huh? They haven't done anything profitable to the citizens of Currituck County. They have taken away 2,000 acres. They tore down bare woods. They have taken the animals away. It's not a hunter's paradise anymore. Let's build a solar farm. It's just not worth it. It is big business. It is Dominion. It is Duke. It is not the citizens. And everything that we have said and everything we fussed about, I don't think has been considered. I really don't think so. And that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. There was a little bit of confusion on public hearing and public comments, so I'm just going down the list. Okay.
This is public comment. This is not part of the UDO change. So if what you want to speak, you want part of the record associated with the UDO change, you need to wait for the UDO change to say your piece. This is not part of that record. That's any confusion.
Is there anyone on the public comments that signed up for public comments that wants to be in the public hearing? The remaining names I have are Mary Harper and Gail Aspinwalt.
Pass.
You both pass? Okay.
Around the solar.
Okay. The next name would be Barbara Snowden.
Chairman, Commissioners, I come before you tonight. I'm on the agenda a little bit later, but this is another topic. I seem to be wearing double hats tonight. This is the 100th anniversary of the beginning of the United States involvement in World War I. About 6 or 7 years ago, the commissioners decided to list on their website veterans of Currituck County. For the 150th, we put together the list of all soldiers that served in the Civil War. With the centennial of World War I, we would like to add to that list, and we turned over to the county today a list of over 200 soldiers who fought in World War I from Currituck County. We have two very important lists. One is the North Carolina Service Records. The library graciously helped us put together this list. It will be on your website. We have added other soldiers that were not in that list but served from Currituck. A number of Currituck citizens signed up in Virginia, and so we're looking at those Virginia records. I'm here before you tonight to say, one, it will be on the website soon. And two, if you had a relative who served in World War I, please get in touch with either the library or the Currituck County Historical Society so we can add your name to the list. And as I said, right now the list is over 200 citizens from Currituck who actually took part in World War I. And we want to make sure we get the names correct and their service records documented for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. That will end the public comment section. Moving on to administrative reports. Glenn Baker from Trillium Health will give us a report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commissioner Board, thank you very much for allowing me a little bit of time on your agenda. It's our hope that as Trillium, we will be asked to come periodically to talk about Trillium, our updates throughout the year so you know what's going on. I want to thank Commissioner Beaumont for serving on my advisory board and look forward to working with Commissioner Hanning as well. Just a few updates. July 1, 2016 marked our first anniversary after the consolidation of East Carolina Behavioral Health and Coastal Care. Our main focus has been and still is that we provide the right service, the right amount, at the right time for all the individuals that we serve. The majority of our responsibility falls with being able to manage the behavioral health services for the Medicaid population in our 24 counties, as well as the indigent population as well. So one of the major activities that happens every year with the managed care organization is a gaps and needs process. We actually contract that out to an outside agency to take a look at our... Okay. Well, okay, thank you. Is our needs and gaps analysis that we do. They look at a lot of demographic information. They pull a lot of information from our billing, look at consumers, how far they are from services, see what the areas where we have the biggest gaps. And then they actually present that report to our board, and then we adopt that needs and gaps analysis. The result of that needs and gaps kind of dictates what our reinvestment plan is going to be. Reinvestment plan is something that's mandated by the General Assembly. It's mandated by the Division of Mental Health. As a managed care organization, we are required to take the savings that we make by providing the right service at the right time, at the right amount, take those monies and reinvest those dollars back into the community. And we have done that. Our Board of Directors in 2016 approved our reinvestment plan, and they actually restricted that fund balance to pay for those services. Some of those services include the Healing Place, which will be a facility for people that struggle with addiction. It would be at no cost to the consumers. The Oxford House is another example. That's 20 sober living homes across our 24 counties when people come out of treatment and they need somewhere to get a fresh start. The accessible playgrounds, of which Currituck has a playground here. There's several evidence-based practices that we've also implemented. Child First, mental health first aid training. And then another one is Access Point Kiosk. That has been put in your library here in Currituck, and so far we've had 50 screenings from the kiosk. So I think that's pretty good for Currituck County. I was very pleased with those demographics. So we've served this past year. We served approximately 50,000 people across our 24 counties, and the total cost of those services was $340 million. We manage a network of providers, over 400 providers across our 24 counties. Services in Currituck County, this is a little misleading, but although you have only a couple of providers, like a group home or a day program in Currituck County, there are still other services that are provided in Currituck County. There are services that don't require the provider to have a site in that county. They have teams that go into private homes to provide those services. Some of those services, like mobile crisis, for example, the innovation services is a service that goes into the home, multisystemic therapy, Child First, all of those services go into the home. I think the closest outpatient med management provider is in Elizabeth City. That's still within our radius of what we have to meet that requirement, although we're always looking to try to bring more psychiatrists, which is a big shortage of those, to our area. So for Currituck County, last year we served 737 consumers. 581 of those were in mental health services. 153 of those were substance abuse, and 90 of those were intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the total of those costs were roughly $5 million. If you're adding up those figures, they don't add up because some people can receive more than one service. So just briefly, the main topic of what I wanted to talk about, we manage a lot of different pots of money. We manage 3 different pots of Medicaid money. We manage a pot of state funding, and then we manage county funding that we get from the counties, and then our fund balance. So the most important topic tonight is around state funding. We approximately have about $20 million when it's all said and done each year to provide services for those individuals. There's a lot of services in our service array that Medicaid doesn't pay for. So we have to use our state-funded dollars to pay for those services, even though people may have Medicaid. So over the last 2 years, the General Assembly has cut our state money. Across North Carolina, $263 million is what they've cut. And what they've done is they've come to the MCO and said, we want you to take your savings or your money and your fund balance and replace that money that we're cutting. So we have done that. So in the 2015-16 budget year, what happened was in 2015, the cut was $110 million. So they based the formula on what your fund balance is at the time. And at that time, we had a pretty high fund balance. We just started reinvesting our monies into the programs that we were going to invest in for our catchment area. So we had 15% of that $110 million that was cut. And the next year, in 2016, they did another cut, and that cut was $152 million. So we paid another 15%, even though we continue to spend our fund balance. So we were down to 13% of that statewide total, but they still are using the formula back when we had money back in 2015. So by October of 2016, we were down to 11% of our budget. And so rather than taking into consideration what we have spent in our reinvestment, they looked at our fund balance, still using the first fund balance, and we continue to spend, and so we feel like we're paying more than maybe what our share should be. So we had $10 million in our state fund balance in 2014. 2016, we had spent all of that money. And so we had to turn to our unrestricted Medicaid fund balance to be sure that we could continue to pay for those services. So by July of 2017, if the General Assembly doesn't put that money back in our budget, our fund balance is going to be down to $3 million. So what that's going to mean is that those people, the folks with mental health issues and those people with intellectual and developmental disability issues, they may lose their homes. A lot of those folks are in group homes, and those group homes are paid for with state dollars. And so when the state dollars run out, then and we don't get that money put back in our budget, then it could affect people's homes where they live. Some of the other services that state funds pays for is day programs. We have some day programs that have been around for 20 years. And these individuals have been participating for that long. But again, state funds is what pays for those services. So without the state dollars putting back in our budget, it could really affect a lot of people. So what we're doing, we've been advocating at the state level to have this money put back in our budget, or if they won't put the money back, at least if they could take into consideration our reinvestment projects, what we are trying to put back in the community, and at least adjust the formula so that they don't continue to use the budget we had in 2016 or 2015, and they lower our responsibility toward the future budget cuts that they may do. So you know, what we were asking tonight is if, you know, you all would consider contacting your legislators to say we need to put this money back. We had a resolution that I think was sent to you all to actually help support Trillium and support the individuals that we support, that if they won't put the money back, at least if they'll adjust the formula that they use to figure what our share of the savings that we have to pay back would be. So that's basically, in a nutshell, I've flown through this because I know you had a lot of things to do tonight. But are there any questions?
I appreciate that, Mr. Baker. We did approve that resolution in a recent meeting.
Great. Thank you so much. No questions from anybody?
Anyone have any questions?
Mr. Baker, I don't have a question. I just have a comment.
Okay.
I just want to thank Trillium and the partnership with the grant that we received for our parks. The two swings that we have for special needs children and just the park that we have in Maple is just incredible. So I just want to publicly thank you and our partners for that grant, because it was a significant day when we actually did a ribbon cutting and just celebrated that milestone. So just thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. It was our pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Okay, thank you very much.
The next report will be the YMCA annual report with Billy George and Dean Maddox.
I do not have a PowerPoint. I did it the old-fashioned way. I gave the manager a piece of paper. So I apologize for that. Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, Mr. Manager, my name is Billy George. I'm the President and CEO of the YMCA Southington Roads. I think this is my fifth time I've been able to come to this board and report to you that the strength of your YMCA is strong. We're excited about our time here in Currituck County. Just under, if you look at that quick little fact sheet, just under 6,000, your 26,000 residents belong to one of our YMCAs. You had just under 100,000 visits to the YMCA this year, and 1 in 3 of your members comes in some form of financial assistance, which is funded by our donors and the organization to ensure that no one's turned away from an inability to pay for the Y. That resulted in just over $450,000 being passed out. It's a needs-based financial assistance plan, basically based on the size of your family and your family income. As I was writing down tonight, I had my speech kind of framed for me after my disappointment to realize all these people didn't come here tonight to hear the YMCA speak. So, but after I got over that, I saw this beautiful billboard that says that the Y builds more than muscle. And I think nothing really categorizes the Y than that billboard. I like to say we were in fitness when fitness wasn't cool, because we started building gyms in the pools back in the 1800s when there wasn't the TV and marketing associated with gyms today. But it's about building strong kids, strong families, strengthening the foundations of every community we serve. And I think if you go inside your YMCA and see the things that are happening, I hope you are as pleased as I am that we've been great stewards of your money, great servants to your community, and we look forward to a bright and more prosperous future. I have Dean Maddox with me here this evening, who's our district vice president, who runs all of our North Carolina branches, which we have 3. He works at the most important branch, which is, of course, the Currituck County Family YMCA. I'm going to ask Dean to add a few things to our comments.
Thank you, Mr. George. Just what a pleasure it is to serve Currituck County. I just want to highlight a couple of quick things. In Currituck County, I think you really see the principle that 2 + 2 = 5 when you partner together. And I want to highlight a couple of partnerships. Jason with Parks and Rec, just a great partnership with him, and we expanded our offerings to adults, particularly around pickleball, which is the fastest growing sport in the U.S. through that partnership. I know there's a lot of people who are passionate about that. It's just been phenomenal. Stacy with the Senior Center, expanding the opportunities for seniors through Water in Motion, our water therapy program, and Senior Health Days. Just a pleasure to work with her. Cameron with Cooperative Extension. We're implementing the 4-H curriculum in our after-school program and expanding their impact through research-based institutions. And Sandy with Currituck County Education. We've expanded opportunities for children in reading through the partnership there. It's just been an amazing relationship. And I think the thing that separates Currituck County is that the people in the partnership just make it an immense pleasure. I want to share one last story related to financial assistance. You know, when my wife goes away on a trip, I have 3 teenage daughters now, and they certainly aren't as highly needy as they were when they were toddlers. But I about lose my mind. In about a day and a half, my world unravels. And I just can't imagine these young men and young women whose husband or wife is deployed for months on a time, how they do it. They're superheroes from my perspective. But I see them coming through the Y door, and they've got their kids with them, and they've got this look on their face that says, you know what, I'm just lucky to make it here with the same number of kids that I've got at home in the car here. And to come and be able to put their children in stay and play where they love on them and care for them, and they go up and get to socialize with adults and start a healthy lifestyle, and they leave with just this look of joy on their face. And I thought that's what it's about. It's about changing lives and about being there for a community that needs that service. And it's open to everybody. And I could share more of that, but that's what it's about. It's just a pleasure to serve Currituck County. And we are so thankful for the partnerships that I think are really just demonstrating some tremendous results. So, any questions for Mr. George or myself?
When is the high ropes course?
Right.
When is that open?
Right. That should be open by the summer, I believe. Yeah, by the summer. We're looking. The whole project is together, so we're really looking forward to that.
So we have our first volunteer.
I have all kinds of test dummies.
I think that I think
Test it out on somebody. I mean, are you insured?
I will tell you one quick story about that. We have the same tower at Camp Silver Beach, and we developed that, and I ran up to the top of it the first day of family camp. I'd never seen it done before, but I knew if I didn't climb it that day, I would never climb it. So I'm up there 50 feet. You can see the Chesapeake Bay from the tower, and they say, okay, push yourself off. I'm like, what do you mean push myself off? He says, push yourself off. We're going to lower you down. I said, no. I'm going to climb down. They said, no, that's not the way it's done. You push yourself off, and you get belayed and lowered down. So just FYI. So before you climb it, and the staff tells you to push yourself off, just pray, and you'll take a nice slow defense down to the floor.
It's not the fall. It's never the fall that kills you. It's the sudden stop.
Exactly right.
Mr. George, this is more for Mr. Maddox. I think one of the key takeaways that you have on your sheet is the partnership that we have with the Currituck County Schools to teach our kindergartens the swimming. And if you would elaborate on that, because I think that's a huge point that especially the Currituck Y provides.
Yeah, North Carolina has more coastal water than any other state on the East Coast except for Florida. And we don't have to look very far to see the water around us. There's only 3 ways you can prevent childhood drowning, according to the CDC. You can put fences around all the water, which is really practical. You can put life jackets on every child when they get near the water, isn't really practical, or you can teach them how to swim. And so in partnership with Currituck County Schools, every kindergartner, including Knott's Island, gets a full set of swim lessons during the school day at no charge. This is the same 2-week lesson you would get if you went and paid $50 to take it. And to see the kids come through the doors with their little bags and their swimsuits in this warm water therapy pool that is just amazing for them, and to leave with, they don't all learn how to swim, but to leave with a respect for the water and understanding how to ask for assistance if they do get into trouble is just amazing. It's really remarkable. There's very few communities in the U.S. that have the depth of that programming and partnership. So we're very thankful for that.
Thank you. And with that same note, I'm on the Board of Trustees with Currituck Kids.
Yes.
If we have any children that do not have swimsuits or supplies for that program, would you contact me?
Gladly.
Thank you.
Yep.
If I can, Mr. George and Mr. Maddox, one thing you didn't highlight was you employ a lot of people in this county. A lot of high school kids, it's their first job. My daughter's first job was there. You really teach them a lot of the basics and what's important at a job. So don't forget that.
Thanks. Thank
we
you.
really appreciate that, and it goes a long way, and those kids learn some really good stuff there.
Good.
So
Some
thank
great
you.
young leaders there.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, the YMCA is the largest employer of teens in America, even bigger than Disney.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
The next administrative report would be the Currituck County 350th anniversary with Barbara Snowden. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. The next one is Senior Services Annual Report with Stacy Joseph.
I started to get up.
Senior Center Court. I'm sorry, Stacy.
Okay.
I was looking right at you too.
That's okay. I picked a really
I'm just
busy
a
night to
figurehead.
talk. I know they're all here to hear about senior services. About once a year, for the new people that are here, I come in and just let you know a little bit about growth and what we're doing to expand and what services that we have that are coming up currently. So I'm going to start off with attendance, and this is based off of the calendar year for 2016, based off the numbers from the previous year. Currituck at Barco saw an increase of 7.25% in attendance. Powell's Point, now keep in mind, Powell's Point was closed for almost 2 months due to the weather. They saw a drop in attendance by 16%. Knott's Island had no change. And when I say no change, literally it was like 3 people as far as signatures go. There was no change, which is a good thing. Meals served on site. Currituck saw a 3% increase over the previous. Powell's Point, once again, saw a decrease at 32.5%. It's a big jump when they're closed like that. It makes a big difference when you only have so many people there. Knott's Island saw a decrease at 5%. Home delivered meals for Currituck went down 2% over the previous year. That will not be the case for this year. We've already added 8 additional folks, get ready to push 10 for the home delivery routes, which is outside of our contracted amount, so you will see a difference in that.
Powell's Point went up 8.4% in home delivery, and Knott's Island went up 6.7%. Not quite as big of an increase as the year before, which was 78% increase in home delivered. Keep in mind, as time goes on, and we are an aging community, and you keep hearing a lot about that, you're going to see a lot more home delivered meals. That seems to be the trend that is happening. Home delivered meals total for last year was 10,735 meals. For a congregate, we served 7,630 meals. That is a lot of meals, especially for the home delivered. That's volunteer based. That's our volunteers out there doing that. So that is a tremendous amount. Moving on to advertising, I wanted to say, in addition to the website and the digital sign and the PEG channels and the focus and all those things, outside of knocking on somebody's door, we advertise in every situation that we possibly can to make sure people know what a senior center is and what we do. And one of the things that we did for Knott's Island and Powell's Point, because they do have such a limited amount of people at those locations, is we created monthly flyers. So now the staff at those locations are going out every single month and putting out additional flyers in places that we're not necessarily privy to that they know people come to. For instance, Knott's Island has put out an additional 80 flyers in 7 locations since March of last year. Powell's Point, has put out 24 flyers since September at 6 different locations. It's just one more thing. You know, when we mail out our newsletter, we also put flyers in there for churches and doctors' offices and things like that, but we just want to make sure that we're getting every aspect that we can. Right now, we mail out 185 newsletters and 427 in emails. So we've got about 612 folks that we're reaching that way. 53 are Corolla individuals. And then they go out to the CCA, which is the Corolla Civic Association, and the Friends of the Corolla Library. So we're reaching out in that area as well. One of the things that I recently did, and I do this every time we have a focus come up, I always put in information on senior services, whether it's something that's happening right that minute or something that we do. And on this last one, I just put a little blurb in about some of the things that we offer. It's actually on the 5th page of our newsletter, and it says, did you know we offer this? When I sent it to Randall, he actually sent me back an email saying I didn't know of all this. So I'm just going to read some of those real quick, and it doesn't pertain to everything that we have, but the next time you hear somebody say, hey, I wonder about this, you'll know to put them in the right direction. We have congregate meals Monday through Friday at noon at every location. We have home delivered meals throughout the county. We're sitting probably about 55 people right now. We have monthly health and educational speakers. We have exercise programs like Tai Chi for arthritis. We have puzzles, games, bingo. We have indoor sports, the big pickleball that everybody loves, table tennis, badminton. We have outdoor sports when the weather's good, horseshoes, croquet, cornhole. We have monthly day trips and occasionally an overnight trip here or there. We have free AARP tax preparation, health screenings, annual senior health and wellness fair that we have every year. I bring in vendors for that, and we usually keep some of the same, but then alternate with new ones. This past year, the one that got canceled because of the weather was going to be a lot of focus on county offices, because a lot of people don't know what county offices do and how they can help them. Weekly blood pressure checks, quilting, sewing, bell choir, Bible study, social events like the sock hop or the senior dance, Mother's Day tea, Father's Day breakfast, the wet paint society, tops, cooking and craft classes, musical entertainment, senior games participation. I'm actually on the senior games committee, so if you have any senior games questions, send them my way. I can help you on that. We participate with the Are You OK program, chronic disease self-management program, diabetes self-management program, Walk with Ease programs, the Walking Pause, which is a collaboration with the animal shelter trying to get seniors to go over and volunteer their time, the Senior Buddy program, which is changed quite a bit. We try to get people to, especially our home delivered folks, to take some of the senior center activities and take them into their homes so that they feel a little bit more a part of the community. And it still does that, but it's not to that volume. Now it's a little bit of everything, whether it's sitting and reading with somebody or just stopping by to say hi. So we do have that program, and we do a lot of assistance and referrals to other agencies like AAA and volunteer opportunities. And there's tons more. It's pretty much unlimited. One of the things that we started doing a few years back was getting in touch with Corolla and trying to bring some services down to that area. It's been a slow but steady progress, and slow is the key word. Like many places, everybody wants things all at one time, and getting them to slow down and take these things as they come has been a challenge, but they are finally in that groove. We started out with a Tai Chi for 8-week class year before last, and that did wonderful. We did a day trip to the Chrysler Museum. They could have spent that day and another day after that there. They absolutely loved that. This past fall, we started yoga, and we did it for 6 months. It's finishing up the end of March. In addition to that, we did another fall trip, just a day trip out. So we're slowly but surely adding to the Corolla programs. The attendance has been really good. We're tracking that. The yoga class has had a waiting list this entire 6 months. So we are constantly looking for new ways to improve programs in that area. In addition to that, I recently spoke with Laura, who runs the libraries for Currituck County, and we are looking to maybe do a limited base program at the Moyock Library. Got to get with the Art Council on that to see about the space. And it may be something like Tai Chi or an art painting class or a evidence-based program. So we'll continue to go in that direction. Let's see, a couple other things that are going on real quick. The Chamber of Commerce every year does an annual spring social dinner and dance. We've been doing it every year except for I think it was the third one. And what they do is they have a silent auction, and the money from that goes to the Senior Nutrition Program for Currituck and also the Wild Horse Fund. They're doing that again this year. That will take place on Saturday, April the 8th from 7 to 11. If you want tickets, they're $60. You can see me or you can see Josh Bass, and I can give you his information at the back end of this. I prefer you come to me. We have this little silent competition going, and him and I know the same people, and I'm determined to beat him one of these years and get more tickets than him. So it is a great, fun time. It's cocktail attire. It's a good time to come out and just see people that you haven't seen in a while and meet some new people. One of the other things we're doing is every other year we have a senior dinner and dance at the Currituck Senior Center. And usually it's a little, I don't want to say formal, but they dress up, the tables are decorated nice, and we have a DJ come in. And this year I decided to do a little something different. Kind of hitting towards a younger group a little bit more, and it's going to be a disco-themed 70s dance. And that's going to take place on March 18th. It's $15 per person to help reimburse back into the food. The deadline for that is March 10th to sign up. You can come dressed like 70s themed disco person with the fro and the pants and the whole 9 yards, or you can come just the way you are. So I'm hoping they'll like that. I'm going to have a little ball, and we're excited. We'll see how that gets responded to. Also, we have free AARP taxes going on. I know everybody hears about that. Last year, we helped over 200 people with taxes. They do it on Thursdays from 9 to 2. It is by appointment only. Regardless of age, it is open to the public, and they can give us a call to set up that appointment for that. Okay. One of the last things, I went to a RAC meeting today. If you don't know what that is, it's Regional Advisory Council. And one of the things that they mentioned is March for Meals. You should have gotten letters, or you will be getting letters requesting your participation into delivering meals. 1 hour during the month of March. Josh Bass usually does it. I'm kind of challenging all of you, somebody to step up and do it as well. I will go out with you. You won't have to do it alone. and take a nice picture of you smiling and delivering meals. And it's always a good way to show that county government is involved in their home delivery program. One of the things that will be coming up in the future is there's an initiative that the AAA is trying to introduce into this region, and it is making your county dementia friendly. And what that does is go around to businesses and do training that enables people that work there to respond to dementia patients, clients, in the way that they should. Often people get confused and people handle it with anger, or they don't get the respect that they need to receive. So that's going to be working with me towards the back end of this year. And I'm not sure who we're going to start out with first. It could be going into the food lines. We're just not sure. But the goal is for everybody to understand dementia a little bit better and to make sure that people are treated the way that they need to be and that you know how to handle them if you come across somebody who's experiencing dementia. The last thing that I'm going to add is we, in addition to having folks come in and be able to service them and give them a hug and give them a smile and enjoy our job even on the tough days, is we have an abundance of people that we watch that may start out healthy and slowly decline over time, or they may pass away or go into assisted living or nursing home. It's very difficult for the staff to watch that and not take that home. I couldn't possibly list all the people that we've lost in the last, 7 years that I've been there. But Friday, we did lose a senior center advisory board member. George Ryan was also part of the senior games and a home delivered volunteer. And I just wanted to mention his name. I couldn't come here without mentioning his name and just ask you to please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. He was a tremendous asset to the senior center. I'd walk in and he'd say, hey, how are you? I'm like, good. He goes, you know what? I'm the best guy that I know. I'm like, you are the best, nicest guy that I know. He was just that kind of upbeat kind of person no matter what. And the last advisory board meeting, which was just a couple weeks ago, his wife brought him in, and he really shouldn't have been there, but he's that dedicated, and he chose to be there. The day that he had to sit down and tell me that he couldn't do home delivered meals anymore, he didn't want me to take his name off the list. He just wanted me to put it on hold. So I just wanted to make sure that we're thinking of him and his family. Thank you.
Sorry, George is a good friend too. May he rest in peace, and he is now singing and having fun in heaven with the rest of those that we've lost. But I serve on the Albemarle Commission, and Stacy just gave you an update of an annual for last year for meals, but just for January alone in Currituck County, we served 405 congregate meals. That's in 20 serving days, and 654 home delivered meals. That's in Currituck County. That was just for 1 month. So I applaud the volunteers and the folks that you have at the senior center that is doing the volunteer Meals on Wheels. And it's a great program. We as the county government do pay into that so that we can provide more meals. But I encourage you, if you've got an hour a month, to, like I said, contact Stacy. While everybody's here, I wanted to make sure we got that out. That was part of my commissioner's report, but I can't encourage you enough to participate in that. And as Stacy also mentioned about the caregiver education conference is coming up in March. So just mark your calendars for March 16th. This is a program. It's an educational program for the Healthy Carolinas Dementia Task Force, partnering with the Albemarle Commission and Area Agency, and Aging Family Caregiver Program. Those of you that are caregivers, I just applaud you. It is a tough place to be as we have aging parents, grandparents. It's very challenging. So I applaud you and thank you. And Stacy, you're doing a tremendous job at the senior center. And you just keep it up, girl.
I have a great staff. And we have great relationships, like Dean has said. Well, he's gone now. Like Dean has said, and with AAA, and it makes all the difference to have that support system. The county, there's not anybody. I don't pick up the phone, and I use those resources and bug the living mess out of them, I'm sure. But it is about teamwork, and nobody can do it by themselves. So those applications will be available at the senior centers.
So would you go ahead and put your telephone number out for the public?
I will. Sorry, I always forget to do that. It is 232-3505.
Stacy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next administrative report is Currituck County 350th anniversary. Barbara Snowden.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm here tonight to tell you about something that we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years. About, 4 years ago, Dan, I first mentioned that this event was coming up and that we need to start to do some planning to celebrate the 350th anniversary of Currituck County. I have to give you just a little bit of history. I'm sorry, the history teacher in me comes through. The county of Albemarle was the beginning of North Carolina, and it was divided in 1668 into 4 precincts. Those 4 precincts were Currituck, Pasquotank, Paquemmons, and Chowan. And out of those 4 counties have come the 19 counties that represent northeastern North Carolina. When I come before you tonight for 3 reasons. First, I'm going to ask you to help fund the 350th anniversary for all 19 counties. We have been meeting twice. We have met twice. We've had 10 out of the counties attend the meetings. We have looked at the funding and have set up a budget. And like the Albemarle Commission does and other groups that cover the 19 counties, we've divided based on population and occupancy tax. We've come up with a figure that we would hope that Currituck County would contribute along with the other counties to sponsor the general celebration. That's one thing I need to tell you about. The second thing is, in 1970, I became a permanent resident of Currituck County. Prior to that, I'd been a partial resident as a school teacher during the school year. In 1970, I came back to Currituck County to the biggest celebration that I've ever seen Currituck County have, and that was the 300th anniversary of our county. We had and what made that celebration a success was that it was put together by a number of people. It was put together by representatives of all of the different areas of the county. And so that's the second thing I would like to ask you to do tonight. I would like for you to formally appoint a group of people from one end of the county to the other end of the county, across the Sound, Knott's Island, and Corolla, to be in charge of planning the celebration for Currituck County. Then finally, I have to tell you that any kind of countywide celebration can be as big, as spectacular as you would like to have it. And I know that y'all are in your budget process right now. And so therefore, I hope that you will set aside funds for the countywide celebration so that Currituck County can have one heck of a event, maybe even topping the 300th anniversary that we had a number of years ago. I will be glad to answer any questions that I can about the event, how we've organized it, how we've come up with it. I must say that our Tourism and Visitors Center has been very, very helpful with me attending meetings, contacting the other tourism people in the other counties so that we have a very good representation of the whole area.
Quick question. Did you give a date on?
We're going to celebrate the whole year. starting January 1, 2018 until December 2018. Now, what does that mean? That means that we will set aside a couple dates to have very big events here in the county. But also throughout the whole county, throughout that whole year, we will be doing smaller events, tying events in to the 350th. The logo we hope to see on every event that Currituck County sponsors and everything that Currituck County does. For the large 350th, involving all of the counties, all of the northeastern counties, we have three things going that we're planning on doing. The first one is there will be a traveling exhibit on the history of the Albemarle with a Pacific banner for Currituck County, and that will be traveling around throughout the 13 counties. If you want to count all the counties that came out of those four, you may notice there's a difference in when I say 13 and 19. If you actually historically look at all of the counties that part of them came out of those four counties, you have to count 19. But there are 13 predominant counties that came from those four counties. We plan to do a passport program where we ask, we're putting together a passport where people can go and have their passport stamped when they attend or go to a special event, or if they a historic site. Let's say that somebody from Chowan comes over to the Whalehead Club. They will stamp their passport that they've been at the Whalehead Club. We're asking each county to come up with 2 to 3 sites that they want to be featured as their sites. We're also planning a special event at the Museum of the Albemarle. I'm excited about that, but I'm a history buff, so I'll tell you that. One of the things that they're going to do is Raleigh has agreed to allow the charter, the original charter, the 1665 charter, to come out of the vault in Raleigh and come to the Albemarle in honor of these first 4 counties. I didn't realize how big a deal this was until I found out that I have to make sure that I have 3 highway patrolman cars accompanying this charter through every single county until it gets to Elizabeth City, and where it will then be locked up and in the vault until it's put on display. So the charter will be coming to this area. I'm excited a little bit more than the charter about a very small piece of paper, about this big. It was written in 1668, and it was written by a man by the name of Peter Carteret. He was secretary to the Lord Proprietors of the County of Albemarle, but he had a farm. His farm was located in Piles Point. He got hit by a hurricane. And he writes to the Board of Trade to say, in 1668, my hog house was destroyed, my barn was destroyed. This is what was going on in 1668 in Currituck County. And I have requested that document, and it will be traveling with the charter as far as I know. They've told me I can't have it, so I assume it will be coming at that point. There will be celebrations not only for Currituck County. We're also asking another thing a little bit different. We're hoping that Currituck, Hyde, Dare, and Tyrrell can get together and do something together. Because I hope you all realize that when Currituck was a county in 1668, or a precinct in 1668, out of our land came Dare County, Hyde County, and Tyrrell County. And so we're hoping that we can get together as different counties and have a celebration for just us. So we're looking at tiered level. Big celebration, all the counties together. Next, a celebration of the counties that came out of those 4 original counties, Chowan, Paquimans, Pasquotank, and Currituck. And then each county to have its individual celebration within the year 2018. Does that sound like a big enough project? And I'm afraid that I have to come to my own county and I'm going to have to ask you, as you're doing your budget procedure, to help us with the funding, both for the overall and then for our county.
One more question from me.
Yes, sir.
Where's the location of the big celebration? What's
The big
anticipated
celebration,
location
well,
of that?
that we're going to say that the charter, that will be one of the things will be in Elizabeth City at the museum, because we have to put the charter in that kind of an environment. When we talk about the big celebration, we have not, the people who have met, the different counties that have met, we have not sat down and said, okay, this is the day we're going to do this gigantic celebration. Currituck County will have the privilege of setting its own date of when they want to celebrate, and then we'll hopefully can connect all of those together so that we will not have any overlapping. But I'm sure there will be, because there's just too many of us at that particular time.
Ms. Snowden, earlier you asked the board or the county to get involved with helping to find people to form these groups.
Yes.
Would it be beneficial just to find individuals and have them contact the Historical Society, and then you can create your groups at that point?
Really, I'm going by what they did for the 350th and the 300th. The 300th anniversary was a celebration of the county, and officially there was a county committee that was appointed by the commissioners, and the commissioners made sure that these people represented the whole county. I don't want it just to be members of the Historical Society. I want it to be people throughout our county who will work and give good ideas so that we can have a wonderful celebration and that we can reach everybody in this county. That's the thing that I really remember about the 300th anniversary, was that I saw tables. I will tell you a personal story. I was married the weekend before the 300th, and I came back from my honeymoon to make it. And we ended up, Wilson and I got back to Currituck before some of the other people who went to my wedding did. But what I remember is walking in to that complex and seeing tables with every single post office, and people lined up to sign in from where their post office would have been. And this was an opportunity that people used to families to have reunions, people to come back to Currituck. We had exhibits. I'm afraid that you're going to have a hard time living up to what the commissioners did back then. They fed everybody who showed up.
Mr. Beaumont's an excellent cook.
Okay. And then
for a lot of people all the time.
Okay. Well, I can tell you at the bicentennial we served 2,000.
Not that many.
And so I'm hoping that there will be a larger number than that. Interesting things. They did things like, would you believe there's a song called Hail Currituck? It's based on the song Hail Columbia, but the actual words are Hail Currituck, and it was written for this 300. You brought into the county the most distinguished historian in the area to have him speak at that celebration. And so when I say that was a big deal, it was a very big deal. And I'm hoping that we can replicate it to some extent with the 350th. That's why I want, instead of me going out and asking people, would you like to serve on this commission, I would like for it to be an official Currituck County event with y'all appointing the people, and then we'll get together and plan what we're going to do for Currituck County.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
How many people do you think you need?
I know that I would think that y'all would need to appoint, make sure you cover your area. I would say, I don't want just, you appoint one person, but make sure you cover your area and the people that you are representing so that they can have a part in this. 20 would be fine with me. As many people as we can get to work and do this. I seem like I'm rambling, but a little bit, and I need to tell you why. I don't want this to be my idea. I don't want this 350th anniversary to be something that came out of the Historical Society. I want it to be something that represents every doggone citizen in Currituck County, that they feel like they have a part of it, and that they have something that they can be proud of, their heritage here in Currituck County. Does that make sense?
Well, Ms. Snowden, I would encourage the Historic Preservation Commission that we just appointed to kind of take the lead on that, and that be kind of one of their first charges as a commission, in addition to other folks that we can appoint for this particular planning efforts. But I certainly would task those of you on that Historic Preservation Commission to kind of lead the way, because you guys are the subject experts, and you get 20 people together, you're going to have 20 different ideas, and it's a short period to plan such a great celebration. So I would encourage you guys to take the lead on that, and then we can supplement.
All right. Well, I will bring that to the commission. That's Ben's idea. If that's with the Preservation Commission, if that's something that we can, because that is a legal group that's set up with a specific job, and if we can handle that as something else. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, Ms. Snowden.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Next item on the agenda is PB 16-28, Currituck County Board of Commissioners, request to amend the United Development Ordinance, Chapter 4, Use Standards to remove solar array as an allowable use. And with that, that'll hand it over to Mr. Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a short presentation on this topic, this text amendment tonight. Most of the information I'm going to cover is included in the agenda package and the staff report. What I want to start with is a little bit of background on the solar arrays as a land use here in Currituck County. After I go through the background, I'll go through some of the land use plan concerns that exist. Real quickly to start, on June 2nd, 2014, the county approved a use permit for a solar array in Charlesboro. That's the project that's on 34 across the street from the elementary school there, Charlesboro Elementary. That was the first solar array that was approved in Currituck County. At that time, the ordinance really had very little standards in terms of any requirements above the minimum ordinance requirements that apply to every use. During that public hearing, the board actually increased the setback to 50 feet from Charlesboro Road and required additional screening between the property lines and the panels. That particular project's about a 250-acre project, approximately. May 4th, 2015, so about a year later, the Board of Commissioners approved a text amendment to add additional standards to the UDO to address requirements such as ground cover, screening, height limits, decommissioning plans, and the decommissioning requirement if a project goes inactive. That same night, later that night, the board had a public hearing and it issued another use permit for a project in the Moyock area known as Wildwood Solar. That particular project was fairly large. The approval encompasses about 2,000 acres. During that public hearing, in addition to the text amendment of the standards I just mentioned, the owner also agreed to add a 300-foot setback for the panels, including a landscape berm. So again, there were some additional requirements added to the use permit for that project. Move forward later that year, October 5th, 2015, the board amended the UDO for solar arrays an additional time. In that particular amendment, they increased the setback for solar arrays to 300 feet in some instances, required groundwater testing, and then now we require a performance guarantee for decommissioning. In January 4th, 2016, so a few months later, the Board of Commissioners, April 4th, 2016, a few months later, the Board of Commissioners had a public hearing for another use permit for a solar array on the project formerly known as the Goose Creek Golf Course. At that April meeting, the board actually denied that use permit for that project. On January 3rd, moving forward, in January 3rd, 2017, the board adopted an ordinance imposing a moratorium on the acceptance, processing, or consideration of application for solar arrays. So that kind of brings us to where we're at tonight. The board, at that January meeting, adopted a 60-day moratorium. And what's before you tonight is an amendment to the ordinance that would actually remove solar arrays as a permittable use in Currituck County. And one quick thing is, just to clarify, is that the existing solar array, so you got one that's constructed on 34, which is already built, and then you've got one that's partially constructed in Modoc. Should this amendment or this ordinance amendment be adopted tonight, those two projects would become what's called legal nonconformities or grandfathered, for in other words. So those two would not necessarily go away, but they would then operate as nonconforming uses. In the and I'm not going to read this verbatim, but in your staff report, the staff included an analysis of what's our text amendment review standard. So when you review these requests, these ordinance amendments, the board has the ability to go through a series of kind of questions or standards they should apply to an ordinance amendment. The staff has included an analysis of each of those findings in your staff report. Additionally, the language that was included in the moratorium you adopted in January 3rd is also incorporated in the staff report. The moratorium language includes some of the basis for the amendment that's considered tonight by the Board of Commissioners. Land use plan is one of the issues that really came out of this. Is one of the tasks you have as a Board of Commissioners is when you sit in your legislative capacity and you consider an amendment to an ordinance, or if you consider a rezoning, one of the findings you have to make under the North Carolina statutes is the extent to which the amendment is consistent with the land use plan and reasonable and in the public interest. So one thing I want to point out to the board is in your current 2006 land use plan, you have two policies that are applicable in this case, this amendment before you tonight. One is our land use plan indicates that active agricultural lands having a high productive potential, especially those removed from infrastructure and services, should be conserved for continued agricultural use. So you want to evaluate that against the extent to which new solar development may be inconsistent with that. Additionally, you have a policy that says Currituck County shall not support the exploration or development of energy-producing facilities within its jurisdiction. So again, that's another policy that you want to give weight as you consider this text amendment application tonight. Staff has reviewed this request, and we do find that the proposed text amendment complies with the applicable review standards of the UDO, and it is consistent with the 2006 land use plan. The Planning Board heard this amendment at their February 14th meeting. During that meeting, after much discussion, the Planning Board moved to approve this text amendment to prohibit solar arrays as a permitted use in the county. The Planning Board gave his reasons for that. Number one is inconsistency with the land use plan, including policy AG1 and policy ID9, which are the two policies I just referred to. One additional comment the Planning Board did make with their recommendation for approval that was unanimous, but they also added a condition in the motion that recommended the Board of Commissioners not rush to a decision, since this affects the county with income loss and land sitting vacant for several years. So they did ask the board to consider the decision they may or may not make tonight. With that concludes my presentation of the staff report. I can answer any questions you have now or during the public hearing or afterwards.
Any questions from the board?
Ben, would you explain what a performance guarantee to ensure decommissioning is?
So a performance guarantee is an amount of money that in this case, the solar energy company, or it could be a property owner or developer, has to put forward to guarantee their performance. So in this case, what it means is that the solar energy company must establish a financial security in the event that if the solar array is ever abandoned or is no longer operable, the county would have access to funds to then move forward and perform the service, which in this case would be removing the panels or the infrastructure. So it's a way to protect and make sure that down the road there's financial surety in place to remove the equipment, or it could be to build a street or whatever performance it's guaranteeing.
Has that been done with the Mayock and Shawboro?
It was not done for Shawboro because there was no performance guarantee in place at that time. It has been done for the Moyock project, although I can't tell you offhand exactly the amount of that performance guarantee, but it is required for Moyock.
Mr. Woody, I got a question regarding the recommendation you stated from the planning board. You said it was unanimous that they approved this text amendment, and then they added a stipulation that the board consider the language at a later date.
Yeah, well, and I'll read it again. What the recommendation included, and it was actually an amended motion, so it wasn't the cleanest motion and vote, but what the amended motion included was, and I'll read it, recommendation that the Board of Commissioners not rush to a decision since this affects the county with income loss and land sitting vacant for several years. I guess, and I'll try to speak for the planning board, I think their intent was that there was careful consideration of any prohibition of this land use in the county.
But they unanimously...
They did unanimously approve or recommend approval of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? With that, I'll open the public hearing. Before we get started, if I can do a little bit of housekeeping, there's a lot of folks here that want to talk. You're limited to 3 minutes. We're going to allow everyone to speak this evening. If your name is called and you just want to say, I agree, that's perfectly fine. Please pay attention to your lights up there. Yellow means you're getting ready to be red lighted. The red light is the mean person. I'm the nice guy telling you to move on. Just remember that. So with that, I'm going to get started with the public hearing. I would appreciate no comments from the folks in the audience, no clapping. Please respect the individual's time when he's up here speaking. I'm sure they'll respect your time as well. With that, and I will read these names the best I can. I thought I had the worst handwriting ever. I'm wrong. So with that, we're going to begin, and I will do my very best. So please bear with me. The first person I'm going to call is David Orr.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You're welcome, Mr. Orr. If you could please state your address for me.
Yes, 6389 Currituck Highway.
Thank you.
I also own a property abutting the land at 6580, which is the State Farm Building, the Lindell Cedar home that was a sales center for years and then became the State Farm office in Grandy. I support the innovation of future environmentally friendly forms of power. I think that, back in times gone by, when the automobile came along and every other invention, there's a lot of resistance to things that change. I think the world is going to change. It's changing very quickly around us now. I do support change. I think that progress is something that's inevitable everywhere. I think that definitely the amendments that have been made and the new rulings that go along with the facility will ensure that, to the public's interest, the site is kept in a fashion that was not of the original nature of the one that was developed back in Scarborough. I think that we can move forward with a project like this, and it can be a state-of-the-art project if it's done correctly, and it's up to you people to make that decision. I thank you for your time here tonight, and hope you make the right decision for everybody.
Thank you, sir. George Winslow.
George Winslow, Carrollton, Virginia. Lindsay Farm, which is just south of Moyock on Route 168, extends down to Survey Road and back damn near as far as you can see. But anyway, I'm here in favor of solar farms. The reason I'm stating that is it's becoming harder and harder for the farmer to make a living. encroachment of homes, and I've been here quite a few times. I think many of you recognize me. I've been here quite a few times concerning homes being built on the north and south of this farm. I'm not in favor of not having homes. Needless to say, people have to have some place to live. But likewise, the farmer has to have an option to fall back on. And solar farming is a clean option. It's a green energy. It's a means of turning the land into something productive for 15 to 30 years, and at the end of that period, there'll be land available, and having a bonding arrangement where the panels will be removed is an excellent idea, and I support that. But then the land will be available to support the community better with commercial along 168 for this particular farm, and housing in the back. Housing does not, you know as well as I do, housing does not pay for itself. It's a drain on the economy. Having a solar farm would be a positive, especially in taxes and also in preserving that land for future development. So I would strongly have you consider solar farming under, for example, agricultural zoning with special use permit for each case, and not just blanketly saying no more solar farms in the county. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Jim Bodino.
Ladies, gentlemen, my name is Jim Bodino. I reside in the Carolina Club, 135 Charleston Drive. I'm in favor of solar energy, like many people here are. What I object to is location. My main reason is harmony, or lack of, should I say. The proposed project is not harmonious with the center of Grandy and residential area adjacent and surrounding proposed solar farm. Harmonious can be described as compatible or well-matched, or free from disagreement and dissent. The explicit site meets neither criteria. They claim the proposed farm is not in a residential area. It's zoned agricultural. True, it is zoned agricultural. However, the Carolina Club community consists of 220 lots, of which half are developed. You know what? This residential community is also zoned agriculture. The residential community. Explicit contradicts their own claim the land does not adversely affect adjacent residential properties by offering, some could say, bribing 53 adjoining neighbors. 53. That's their words. 53 adjoining neighbors are residents. They offer them $12,500 over a 10-year period to offset electric bills. Or this caveat, a lump sum of $7,500 upon completion of the project. I mean, I think that's paying for support. And I'll prove that by saying, in return, they request in this letter the recipient's physical and vocal support at tonight's Board of Commission meeting. I think it's very important when somebody comes up here speaking against the ban that they identify themselves if they received a letter that they will get money for their support. Now, we're not unreasonable people. I think the gentleman here said for preserving land in the future. Not with a 30-year contract. Not many of us will be here in 30 years. But we're not unreasonable. We have a solution I think can work. Form a select committee for alternative development which benefits the landowner, Jim Owens, and Grandy residents, whereby all profit, not one. The proposed committee would consist of the following: Jim Owens, the landowner, Director of Planning and Development, Ben Woody, designated members of the Planning Board, and several appointed active affected residents. We think this could work, and we ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mackenzie Meinhold.
My name is Mackenzie Meinhold. Address is 192 Raceway Drive, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm a representative of Sun Energy One. We're in front of you this evening because Sun Energy One has some serious concerns regarding the procedure for the text amendment to the UDO. On February 14th, 2017, the Planning Board included the amendment to the UDO, which removes solar arrays as an allowable use on its agenda. However, prior to this meeting, there was no advertisement or public notice of this agenda item anywhere except the county website. As you all are aware, Section 2.2.3 of the UDO provides authority for the Planning Board to make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners on text amendments. The UDO also requires the Planning Board meetings to be provided in accordance with Sections 2.3.6. 2.3.6 specifically provides for public notice of a text amendment through publication for 2 successive calendar weeks prior to the hearing. Moreover, during the February 14th, 2017 meeting, the Planning Board opened and closed a public hearing on the amendment. This public hearing is memorialized in the meeting minutes. One member of the public spoke at this hearing. This gentleman, coincidentally, was also on the agenda for another item that evening. No other members of the public were on the record regarding the proposed amendment. While SE1 was not present, the meeting appeared to be sparsely attended. This is in stark contrast to our meeting this evening. Because a public hearing was held at the Planning Board level, proper notice should have been in the newspaper, allowing the full public to participate in the process. To our knowledge, this did not occur prior to the February 14th meeting. SE1 is concerned that the Planning Board did not receive accurate or balanced information when it made its vote to recommend the UDO amendment to the Board of Commissioners. Did not hear from the solar industry or any landowners supporting the projects, both of which are here tonight. We specifically hold issue with some of the supplemental information that was in the Planning Board's packet as well as in your packet tonight. We have other members intending to speak to those issues later this evening. This is a complex topic, and the moratorium and amendment deserve appropriate consideration from members of the public, particularly because the amendment is a significant departure from the conditional zoning district process that is currently in place for solar arrays. Even Planning Board members have encouraged a careful, timely decision on this issue. We feel that a vote tonight would not be improper, but also rushed. We wish to have the opportunity to be heard both at the Planning Board level and in front of the Board of Commissioners on the proposed amendment. We ask this evening that due to these Planning Board issues, the Board of Commissioners refrain from voting on the text amendment and instead remand to the Planning Board so that a proper public hearing on the amendment may be held. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gail Ramesh, S. John at 130 Longhorn Drive. You win, by the way.
Once again, John Decker, 130 Longhorn Drive. All right, I've been here before about the solar farm over in Ranchland, we'll say, Moyock area. All right, now we were during the meeting, and we were told that a lot of things were going to happen, but they didn't happen. Like, you know, with the noise, lighting, dust, flooding. I mean, I could go on and on. The berm was never completed. I don't know if it's ever going to get done. There was numerous, myself and most of the residents over there, we made numerous complaints because they built this right in a residential area. Now, I'm not against solar farms, but you can't build this in the middle of a residential area, which they did. And I just want to bring it, to the board that when you build these things, keep in mind that, you have people that live around these. And these are power plants. I mean, you can say it's, it's green energy, which it is, but it's an electrical power plant, a very large one. And that's all I got to say. Just keep that in mind, when you build these things.
Thank you. Stephen LaFleur.
Good evening. Stephen LaFleur, 192 Raceway Drive, Mooresville, North Carolina. Good morning, or good afternoon. I want to talk to you today about a discouraging email that was released from a public information request that we made to the county from one commissioner to fellow commissioners. Many of the statements that the commissioner made in the email were misleading or just simply false. I will now share some direct quotes from this commissioner. Quote, We were told that the construction of these facilities would employ a significant number of county residents, that the construction materials would be purchased locally, and that the workers from outside our area would be lodged in our hotels, end quote. Sun Energy One has worked with over 7 different area staffing agencies to local and hire local labor for the Sun Farm solar project. If individuals were interested in the work and showed up, signed up, and passed the background and drug test, they were hired. We've also made significant efforts to source and to utilize local suppliers whenever possible. And to end, fortunately, the housing in Moyock is extremely limited, including that there are no hotel lodgings in Moyock. We have turned and continue to rent at least 4 houses in the area to provide local stay. The commissioner then went on to write, almost immediately following the permit approval, they reneged on the promises that they made under oath during the Board of Commissioners meeting, including a 300-foot setback, berm, and landscaping. Only by threatening to revoke their permit did they become compliant to what they agreed to, end quote. This is, to be clear, the revocation of our permit was never threatened, and we never reneged on our promise to install a berm or a buffer. The berm was voluntary. We had promised to do it, and we completed it. It was also, it was at great expense. We immediately installed the berm prior to starting the construction of the facility. It's important to note that we were not required, again, to install the berm. It was just a promise that we made that we did keep. The commissioner also stated that most recently, Sun Energy One sought a bond as to forego landscaping until the spring, and were told it was not time to plant. Now, this is true that we had requested a bond due to site conditions not conducive to vegetation and installation, due to a lot of the groundwater. Now, the berm was installed and has already experienced significant grass growth, and we fully intend to install the required vegetation on site, and work has already underway. No attempts to forego landscaping have been made. The commissioner completes by finishing to state that local employees of Sun Energy One flashed their passports at Food Line, claiming that they're non-residents and required not to pay sales tax. This is outright false. We had discussions with the management at Food Line, and confirmed that such statements were false and that they've never had any issues with Sun Energy One employees. I want to finish that due to misleading statements, such as I've mentioned, surrounding the solar industry, and most importantly, the unknown effects that this text amendment would have on the spurring economic development in Currituck County, that I'm requesting you, the Currituck County Board of Commissioners, postpone the vote tonight and to allow further fact-based conversation to decide the fate of renewable energy in Currituck County. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Neenadike?
Good evening. My name is Linda Wadik, and I'm from Sun Energy One. I am at 192 Raceway Drive in Morrisville, North Carolina. So this evening, I'm asking the commissioners as well if they could prolong the voting of this, and also do more studies and look into it, because they're not just affecting Sun Energy One, they're also affecting the community, such as our local employees, all the subcontractors that we utilize locally, in addition to businesses such as gas stations, restaurants, and that we embark on. I just want to talk a little bit about economic development and local investments Sun Energy One has done throughout their stay here. Like my colleague previously mentioned, we hired 7 agencies to come out here locally and hire local personnel for our projects. We did hire people locally here who worked on our projects, and some of them might be here today. We did pay property taxes, which helps the community, in addition to 20% of the abatement taxes for the cost of our facility. It was mentioned previously that none of the money is spent here on things of that nature. Those taxes help with highways, those taxes help with the school locally, and those taxes help with the community, which is Currituck. In addition to that, we did, like my colleague mentioned, we did rent 4 properties. 3 were in Moyock, 1 was in Currituck, and I can provide the addresses to you guys if need be. We had an impact in businesses. Grocery stores were able to gain from us being here. Restaurants were able to gain from us being here. Gas stations were some of the people that were able to gain, businesses that were able to gain from us being here as well. In addition to that, Sun Energy One did, in fact, embark in the community by providing donations to various organizations here in Currituck and surrounding areas. One that was mentioned here today was the Currituck Kids. We did provide some donations to them. YMCA of Currituck, they spoke this evening. We did help them out as well. The World Trip Brothers charity sponsorship, Sun Energy One also helped them. Food Bank of Albemarle, which was mentioned tonight, Sun Energy One did help them as well. Albemarle Commission Area Agency on Aging, Sun Energy One helped out and provided some donations as well. Albemarle 4-H Livestock, Sun Energy One provided some help to that. North Carolina Potato Festival, Sun Energy One helped as well. Living Children's Hospital, Sun Energy One also donated to that. So we definitely, whatever community we come into, we like to be good neighbors. We take in that community, we don't broadcast our donations, but unfortunately tonight it seems like we have to, and that's unfortunate on our end. In addition to that, I'm not sure if you guys has heard, the current solar facility that we have, Summit, is actually, but MIT is actually part owner of that facility. And we were in talks involving the local community college to kind of embark with the MIT doing their studies there. And unfortunately, due to everything that's going on here, we're still in discussions to have the local community college, at least. I don't know if you guys are familiar with MIT or not, but we were looking into having the local community college kind of work with MIT to perform some studies down here and kind of help out as well and utilize the college a little bit as well.
Linda, if I can move you along, please.
Sure. Just at the end, I just want to request that you truly think about the impact your decision will have on the landowners, the businesses, the local employees of Currituck County, and ask that you prolong the moratorium until further studies have been conducted, and that you guys look at this more closely before you make a decision tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Kennedy.
Brian Kennedy, 192 Raceway Drive, Mooresville. I'm also with Sun Energy. Just saw some of the information that's in front of you tonight, and I just want to make sure that you sort of understand what technology we're using. This is a solar panel. This is what we use. Can I hand it over to you? There's a lot of information out there about how bad solar technology is. The panels that we use on our sites have been in manufacturing for over 50 years. They're made out of three main materials: glass, aluminum, and silicon, which is refined sand. There's no toxic materials. There's no toxic releases. They degrade 0.5% a year. So in 30 years, they're still at 80% plus the capacity. So they can be recycled or reused. Just please, I know you have a lot of information in front of you right now. If you Google bad stuff about solar, there's stuff out there. That's a different product. First Solar, look it up. It's not this crystalline technology. So again, I just ask you to be careful and prudent in how you evaluate the safety of these systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Griffin.
Robert Griffin, 436 Poplar Branch Road in Poplar Branch. Mr. Payment, to something that was stated earlier about the planning board meeting. While that was a unanimous vote, that's not the entire story. The initial motion died due to a lack of a second. And the planning board was kind of at a wit's end as to what to do because that had died. And Mr. Woody kind of prompted them, because of the time nature of this, that they really needed to make a decision that particular night as to what they wanted to recommend to you. And so at that point, after much discussion, as Mr. Woody said, they then added in that it was a unanimous vote. They did vote for the text amendment, but the concerns were added in about whether or not this was being rushed to judgment. And there wasn't enough time to fully consider this. And the other thing that they said was they were concerned about the impact it may have on the income stream and land development, as Mr. Woody said. But if you go back and look at the YouTube video of that, the initial motion that was presented to vote for the text amendment failed due to a lack of a second. So I think that's important for you to understand as you consider what they sent to you. And I do think it's also important to consider when you decide to prohibit something that that's a very significant step. And having concerns is one thing, but making a prohibition is completely different. And I don't think that's something that you want to consider at this point when you talk about economic development and you talk about bringing business to the county and hiring a new economic director. And the first thing they see is we're prohibiting business to come into the county. I don't think that's the message that this Board of Commissioners wants to send. And the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to read just a little bit of a letter that I know you received from one of the members here in the audience, from Mr. Jimmy Farabee. He has been a lifelong Currituck resident, as I have been, save for going to college and a few years teaching in Wake County. But as he said, he has lived in Currituck County all his life. His family has been farming land in Currituck for many generations. And he would not consider doing anything to harm Currituck County or the surrounding areas. And while I do have an interest in property, in the potential for solar farms, I too do not want anything to harm Currituck County. And I would not sign off on something if I thought that was going to happen. I thank you for your time this evening, and I certainly do not agree that a prohibition of solar technology would be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Clifton Banks.
Good afternoon. I'm Clifton Banks. My address is 171 Pointers Road. My farm is located on 267 Pointers Road. I'm here in favor of this, of not having this moratorium. Y'all got to realize that, the farming situation here is up and down, just like anything else. And this here project does not affect nobody. It brings income in this county, as y'all know. Like the gentleman earlier, one of them said, these housing projects that come in this county, they don't do nothing but cost this county money. Y'all think you're sitting up here seeing all these permits and all the money coming in for all this stuff. This is just an expense. It's just like farming, just like us going down the road here, buying fertilizer, seed, corn, whatever. But this here gives us the opportunity, if we ever need to do anything, if it don't matter if it's 100 acres or 1,000 acres or 10 acres, it gives us the opportunity here to take and be able to set some land aside for a situation like this, to come in, to give us money, more or less like a guaranteed money, just like a paycheck for people that works at shipyards or so forth. So it gives us money to kind of depend on if we have a real bad year or something to fall back on. The other thing is, the gentleman's here talking about noise. Well, these projects aren't finished. Now, Ms. Etheridge, you live in Shawboro. Mr. Beaumont, you got a solar set up when Shawboro butts up right against some of your property. My question is how much noise do you ever hear out of all this? Now, you're hearing a lot of noise because of this construction coming on. You're going to have that. I heard a bunch of noise from a housing development that's right across the street from me. Mondays through Fridays, sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays. Hammering, nails, carrying on. But I didn't come up here. You keep yourself to yourself, okay? Keep yourself to yourself. I didn't butt you, okay? I didn't butt in on you, so you be quiet. All right. Now, here it is. I'm listening to all this here going on, but I'm not up here complaining about anybody. So these farms, like I said, they're in generating money. They're in generating a lot of tax money. And y'all need to stop and really consider about this. And what I'm saying is, once again, they're not costing this county anymore. You don't have to worry about any fire and EMS, buying extra, hiring extra people, doing any of this. So, just stop and think of all the tax revenue. If y'all just, do away with this, how much money you're going to lose in this county to begin with, because it's not costing you 1 cent. So anyway, I appreciate your time. And I'm sorry for speaking out, but anyway.
Quite all right, I understand. Laura Darden.
Hello, my name is Laura Darden. My fiance, Fidel Escobar, and I own the property at 214 Uncle Graham Road. in Grandy. I had a speech here, but after listening to everything, it's easy for people to come up here and say, this is what's best for our community, but when you are personally affected by what's happening, and it will affect me and our family, our animals, the water levels are just not adequate. 3 of our acres are underwater all winter. The drainage is a big problem. I don't think, in my honest opinion, that Currituck just can, withstand all of the drainage issues. There's property probably out in the country that's more suitable, that's already cleared, that may be more suitable for solar farms. But I think that when you go in and you start cutting down trees and filling ponds and destroying our wildlife, that's kind of taken away from trying to save the environment and destroying it all in one. And I kind of feel like that if something isn't resolved in this matter, that it's just going to keep going because Exoplexus is a big company and they'll just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And there's going to come a time where we're going to run out of not only money but energy in fighting this. And of course, I've got a letter here that they've offered $7,500 buyout and all this other stuff. And I know that Kevin McCord has been assisting Mr. Owens in calling the neighbors and trying to persuade the people to do the buyout for the $1,200 or the $7,500 for the proposal of Goose Creek. But I have unconditional love for my animals, and I hate to see them standing underwater all winter long. In the summer, the mosquitoes are of an abundance. My son went out one day to cut a tree. He had on a white shirt. When he came back, it was blood splatter. The mosquitoes are horrible. I had to move my goats up front because they were getting hoof rot. So out of my 5 acres, we have like 2 that are actually kind of usable. I've got a horse, a donkey, 3 pigs, 2 goats. And unfortunately, the water and drainage is just a big issue. So I am in support of the text amendment to the ODU effectively banning solar arrays in Currituck County. Totally. Just for that reason, I don't think that the water levels are just right for this. It's just going to be standing water all the time. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions? Or I'm sorry, I'm a nervous wreck.
Okay. You did great. Thank you.
Can I leave this?
Kevin McCord.
Good evening. Kevin McCord, 119 Brumsey Landon Drive, Moyock, North Carolina. Formerly the owner of Grandy Golf Club. That name always gets left out, but that's fine. It's not hurt my feelings. Which Mr. Owens purchased from us in 2014 from my father and myself. Mr. Owens approached me and we talked about different uses for the land. It's 122 acres. The solar farm on that land, he wants to use 50 acres of 122. 20 acres by the road, you won't see it. The people that abut on the Carolina Club, I get it. I see their concerns. I own a 5-acre lot in ranch land that abuts to the Sun Energy property. Is it the most prettiest thing in the world to see? No, it's not. When we sold the land to Mr. Owens and the golf course, they, like I said, it was too much for myself and my father. Didn't need it. I'm a deputy here in the county. I have plenty of other stuff going on as well, but I'm against the ban for the solar energy. Like I said, I'm kind of representing Mr. Owens, had talked to me and asked me to assist these guys. Their proposal in Grandy is a football field from somebody's property land. A football field. Everybody rides by the high school. It's a football field. It's a setback. Mr. Owens is a nice guy, first-class, top-notch guy. He's from this area, graduated from NC State, ex-CEO of Caterpillar. They don't come any farther. If I text him right now, he would respond. If I called him, he would respond. He's just a good guy. It's his land. He wants to turn agriculture land into a solar farm. Only 50 acres of it. He's agreed to put setbacks. There is major drainage issues. I owned it. I can tell you. He's going to improve them. So anybody that's there now, he's not going to hurt them. Football field from anybody's property line. Far as one thing that I do think, and this has been addressed, and I'm kind of bouncing around because that's kind of my personality, the restrictions. I went to Sun Energy. They were working past times. Like this gentleman said, he was upset. I went in a cop car, gave him a copy of the county ordinances. If Echoplexus, Sun Energy, whoever it is, if they're not abiding by the rules, fine them. You hit somebody's pocketbook, that hurts. The county has the authority to do that. Far as the noise, there's certain times and all that stuff that they're supposed to do. I'm trying to think. Ag land's turning into residential left and right. Okay, 975 new homes on the book in the 27958. 975, 3 people per home. 975 is 3,000 people almost. Okay, so that costs the county money. This is tax revenue for the county. It's money at gas stations. It's money in other, restaurants, food line, whatever it is. And I get it. I'd rather have a golf course in my backyard than a solar farm. It wasn't feasible. We shut the golf course down. We didn't lose money. Somebody said we bankrupt. We sold it. My dad wrote a check for it. We got a check for it when we sold it. So didn't know that it was bankrupt. But that being said, and just a final note, Mr. Owens owns another property in the county that he maintains. Doesn't the landowner have any kind of rights? I can't tell my neighbor what he wants to put on his, if he wants to paint his shutters blue instead of green. I don't have that authority to do that. But I do really strongly disagree with the ban. Maybe there needs to be some more research to it. Like I said, businesses aren't knocking on the door to come in Currituck County. I sat up there with some of you guys and gals. And we all know that. And like you said, the 975 homes is going to cost, you're going to need more Parks and Rec staff because you're going to have more kids playing T-ball. You're going to have more kids playing flag football. You're going to need more deputies.
Mr. McCord, if I can move you along, please.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And like I said, I'm totally against a ban it's not the precedent that the county wants to send. We don't want business here. As long as there's rules in place.
Thank you. Jerry Wright.
Good evening. My name is Jerry W. Wright. I live at 204 Jerry's Way in Jarvisburg. I'm a resident of Currituck County. I was born in Elizabeth City and brought here to be raised by my parents. My families, the Gregory family that were originally in Shawboro, had been here for over 250 years. The Wright family has been here 200 years. For the last 5 generations, my family has farmed in Lower Currituck, and they were sharecroppers at one time. They acquired property. We have property now that my brother and I farm. We are against the change as proposed and the way it was proposed tonight. We feel like there should have been a public hearing prior to the planning board and basically knowledge by the community that the planning board was considering it. I sat on this board for 4 years ago, and it's not an easy job. It's hard to sit in front of a lot of people. The biggest thing that I hope you will do is listen more. I've looked into the solar panels. I've worked on clean water and wildlife for 31 years in the state of North Carolina, and worked on preserving our beach and lands and water quality. I'm concerned greatly about the carbon load in our atmosphere and about many of our sites now that keep people basically in homes, and the prospect that unless we do something about the carbon load, which is what solar panels do, that Currituck is one of the coastal counties that will be most affected. Thousands of acres in this county could go in the water just in the next 25 to 30 years. And we talk about the Churches Island Causeway, the Knox Island Causeway, the road that accesses all of the Currituck Outer Banks, which gives us a property tax rate that's unbelievable in North Carolina for a county of our type. The farming community in the community that I live is not near as vibrant as it was when I came. There were 23 people farming south of Corn Jock Bridge when I started farming. There are now 4 people. 3 of those operations use income, including the one I have, from other sources to keep our farming operations going. And it is not easy. And there are no people down there to take care of that 3,000 or 4,000 acres of land long term unless we get some other sources of revenue to help us continue our farming operations. I hope you will listen more and take more time, as the planning board has asked you to do, and talk to more people. There are problems related to what we've got going on. If we had stopped developing land on the Outer Banks after the problems that started when we started developing it, we'd have no development over there. But what we've done over the years is continue to change our rules and regulations to provide the best economy and the best situation for our citizens to live in. And I hope that you will take more time before deciding this important things for Currituck. If we can't do anything about air quality on the coast, how do we expect people inland from here to do anything to help us to control that? I'm talking tonight for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren who would like to live here for another 100 years and be neighbors to some of these people's generations to come. And so please consider listening and trying to find things that basically will solve the problems associated with what we're trying to do, because there are solutions to some of these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Rogers. Again, I would ask if you please pay attention to the lights. I appreciate it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members. Nathan Rogers, 101 2nd Street, Suite 1250, San Francisco, California. Being in the forefront of the local controversy over solar farms, we at Ecoplexus, we understand as well as anyone does what the various apprehensions are on the part of community members. But while an outright ban may be well intended, it's a misguided attempt to address concerns that are largely unfounded or could be mitigated without tossing the proverbial baby out with the bathwater and eliminating a valuable source of tax revenue and economic development, which many people have spoke to. Perhaps it might be useful to start by summarizing the economic impact that the industry has had on North Carolina. In 2007, when the state legislature passed the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Portfolio Standard, the state had almost no installed solar power. Fast forward 8 years, and by the end of 2015, North Carolina had installed 2,436 megawatts of solar, and that number is expected to rise significantly once tallies from this last year have been completed. As a result of this deployment, there are now more than 206 companies operating throughout the solar value chain in North Carolina. Those companies employ approximately 6,000 people. In terms of dollars and cents, according to a study by RTI International, by the end of 2014 alone, the energy had contributed approximately $4.2 billion to the gross state product and provided an estimated $651 million in utility and ratepayer savings that will accrue through 2029. But the economic impacts are not just felt broadly across the state. Real-world data from our own projects place local and near-regional spending for a 26-megawatt DC or 20-megawatt AC project at approximately $400,000 in room and board for non-local workers, $300,000 in equipment rentals, $40,000 in fuel purchases, and $100,000 in hardware, small consumables, and other supplies. And these types of expenditures, as well as the long-term lease revenues, which many folks here have spoken to, are occurring in many places that are much poorer than Currituck County, with Duke University estimating that 31% of North Carolina's total investment in solar projects has taken place in counties where at least 20% of the residents live below the federal poverty line. We recognize, however, that solar projects are not without controversy, including questions over panel toxicity. And while we believe that a lot of these are rooted in misinformation or fear, They can be easily addressed through a fact-based conversation about what solar is and is not. For example, while thin film or cadmium telluride-based panels can be dangerous when disposed of improperly, most solar installations employ crystal and silicon panels, which are made of sand and completely non-toxic. And Ecoplexus has offered as a condition of any potential use permit for our potential project to a condition that would require that we submit spec sheets on our panels to planning staff so that they can ensure that we are in fact installing the panels that we say we are, non-toxic panels. And I know my time's running out here. So locally, we proposed a project that we think exemplifies responsible solar development. In addition to being non-toxic, it'll produce approximately $25,000 in year one tax revenue, be completely invisible to the surrounding neighbors. We spent approximately $30,000 in 6 months on a drainage study to identify all of the drainage in and around the proposed project site, and we are working on a plan that will make the drainage better for all the neighbors, and we'll replace all of the ponds that will be filled in. In fact, we'll actually be building ponds that hold more gallons of water. Lastly, we have, as you've heard, proposed a community energy fund to make sure that local residents and neighbors receive a direct financial benefit. And we're also willing to explore the creation of a $100,000 development agreement with the county to help enhance recreational and open space opportunities in the area. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Welcome any questions.
Justin Morrison.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm John Morrison. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Ecoplexus. My address is 807 East Main Street, Durham, North Carolina. I've had the pleasure to build and install solar facilities across North Carolina for the past 7 years. The last 2 years with Ecoplexus have built approximately 60 facilities across the state. One of the things that solar companies do is take a long-term perspective on the sites that they operate on. We, along with the landowners, share a long-term stewardship perspective for the properties that we are managing. I would like to invite the board and others to come tour some of the operating solar farms that we have here in North Carolina so that you can see what a solar farm is like when it's in operation. As was indicated earlier, under construction, there is construction traffic, there is construction noise that goes along with a solar farm. Excuse me. That will last several months. The farm itself there will be there for 35 plus years, during which time it is probably the quietest neighbor one would ever hope to have. We also, in the course of designing the sites, manage for the water flow. As Nathan indicated, on this site and in sites in general, we put ponds, retention basins to prevent water from flowing off the site in a manner that's uncontrolled or unintended. We also plant vegetation on the site after construction that is pollinator friendly, and where possible, we use sheep to keep that vegetation low. Again, all in maintaining a long-term stewardship of the site. Obviously, it's our perspective that it's a beneficial and positive impact in the communities. And would, again, just extend an invitation to come visit a solar farm. I'd be happy to tour several that we have here in the northeastern part of the state so that you can see what a farm is like and how it operates and the impact that it has on its neighbors. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Jim Farabee.
Good evening. My name is Jim Farabee. I live at 178 North Indiantown Road in Shawboro. Mr. Chairman, distinguished men and women and staff, thank you for your time. I am pro solar panel and against the prohibition. I thank you to listen to each and every one that's spoken and everyone that will continue to speak. I've lived here my entire life. I'm 49 years old. Graduated class of 85 and went to NC State, graduated there with a degree in general agriculture in 87. I've been farming here with my brother, my grandfather, James Farabee Sr., who's passed, farmed with my father, Jimmy Farabee, still here with us, and my brother Joel. I enjoy farming. It's a wonderful way of life. I have two sons, very proud of them. Harrison will be graduating from NC State and going to Virginia Tech in grad school in agriculture. Garland will be graduating from Currituck County High School this year and has been accepted to NC State again in agriculture. I'd like to have the opportunity to bring them back here with the potential to earn a good living. Therefore, we need to continue farming. And part of what Clifton said earlier is we've got some good years, we've got some bad years, we've got some in between. And what we're looking for is something to help supplement our farming income, and that being the solar panels. I would never want to do anything to harm the land in Currituck, the people in Currituck, the environment of Currituck. So when I stand here and ask you to not to prohibit and to please let us have, I know it sounds a little silly, I'm saying please let us put solar panels on our land that we've had for, in some cases, many generations. But as is such, we need your permission. We need each of you to allow us to use our land as we see fit with some guidance from you all. That being said, I just ask you to give it all the consideration due. And if I have any time left, I would yield it to Mr. Owen Netherich, who will speak later. Thank you for your time.
Nancy Farabee.
Good evening. I live at 108 Somerset Court. My name is Veronica Reich, and I am pro-solar, and I'm definitely against banning the future of solar in Currituck. I've learned a lot tonight about how it helps farmers and how it helps our community with tax dollars. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ron Campbell.
Good evening. I'm Ron Campbell. I live at 100 Victoria Court, Point Harbor. My wife and I just moved here in October from southwest Pennsylvania, the week of Hurricane Matthew, so we had a interesting welcome to North Carolina. But we've been vacationing here since the 70s, and one of the things we liked about it most was the wonderful air quality. Growing up in Pittsburgh, the Steel City, when the mills were working, we had horrible air pollution, both chemical like gases and also particulates. Ogden Nash, who was a writer and poet, spent some time in Pittsburgh in the 1930s, and he described his time there as hell with the lid off. So breathed a lot of bad stuff growing up, so we really love the air quality here. And even now in Pittsburgh, even though most of the mills are out of business, we still have lousy air because of particulates from power plants. So in my opinion, anything that can be done to reduce burning fossil fuels is a very good thing for the environment and for the people. And I used to be a science teacher, and I'm a firm believer that the gases from burning fossil fuels leads to climate change and sea level rise. And when you live in a county which is only a couple feet above sea level, I think that's something that needs to be considered. And as the gentleman before said, thinking in a big picture down the road, children, grandchildren, we want the environment to be a safe, good place for them to live. So I'm definitely in favor of the solar farms. And I know they're not pretty. There's one west of Camden, past that, driving back and forth to Pittsburgh. But also on my way up here tonight, I think in Jarvisburg, there's a field off to the right of 158, and there's just stacks and stacks of dead trees piled up probably as high as this room. And I don't think that's real sightly either. And I hope they're not going to get rid of them by burning them. I don't know. I know we've got quite a bit of air pollution from the burning of the wood up at the new water park when the wind blows out of the northwest. That comes down over Parker's Landing. So, in my opinion, I'm, I guess an environmentalist. I am an environmentalist. Anything can be done to save the environment, I think, is a good cause. Thank you.
Thank you. John Johnson.
Good evening. John Johnson, 107 Bourbon Street, Camden, North Carolina. I'm definitely in favor of the solar farm. I've been an employee for the Shawboro as well as the Mooryock farm. Being there, noticing what's going on, support, fuel to supply these vehicles. The people, breakfast, lunch, the restaurants that are benefited from that. Then even those people that were not from this area, a lot of these people rented homes or leased homes their time that they were here. So basically, when you're really looking at the ripple effect, it's more so than just the people that are actually working there. It's the local businesses, fuel, as I say, for all of that. So not to mention employment. And I mean, right now, when you look at the employment figures, okay, given the choice, what do you want? Do you want an unemployment check or do you want a paycheck? Give me a paycheck. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. James Farabee.
Chairman, Commissioners, we know y'all received a letter I sent to y'all several days ago. Most people have said everything that I'm going to say, but my family's been in this county since 1786. I would never do anything to hurt any cropland or anybody in the county. Thing I see, this is going to generate tax rate that will help us all in the future, especially with all these houses coming up. And if we don't do something, there's going to be more houses coming up in farmland because it got to go that way. You got one other alternative. You can buy the development rights site. We tried that 10 years ago. The commissioners never got the money off the floor. And that's the only thing I see can help other than solar, wind, some kind of other energy in this county. And I would appreciate y'all consider letting solar in Currituck County. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Worthing.
I pass.
Okay.
But I am for solar power and against the ban.
Thank you. Crystal Farabee.
Same thing. I pass on speaking, but I am for the solar panel.
Thank you. Diane Farabee.
I'm Diane Farabee, 190 North Indian Town Road. I simply want to say that I'm so proud to be living on a farm in Currituck County in Shawboro, and I'm very proud of my two boys, Jim and Joel, who are farming, and they need the opportunity to do whatever's necessary to keep us having the ability to farm that land. And certainly, we're not going to take everything out of the crops. And I just would appreciate you all thinking very seriously about putting a moratorium on something that could be such a help to them in the future. Not only them, but the other farmers here in Currituck County. Thank you.
Thank you. Fidel Escobar.
My name is Fidel Escobar. Me and Laura Darden, we bought the property in 214 Anchor Graham Road in Grandy. And we bought it at the same time Mr. Owen bought in 2014 in November. What happened is like we have a dream to make it. It's 5 acres. We are today like 800 feet and next to them. And I know that I support the text amendment and again that any solar power in Currituck County. The reason I'm looking, I live on the beach for 25 years. I know we got at the beach, the sound, and the Romero River is kind of the span. I'm not a scientist, I know how they build those things, but I know we have hurricanes. It's not safe that they can flow all the way around, The reason they do, I think, because it's a money flow from, they say investment. When I bought it, I asked, hey, when we're doing anything there, they don't want to do anything. But right there, specific right there, they bought it and I see like they bought it and they say they don't want to build anything. But in the 5 months later, we find that they want to do a panel, and say, we got to stop it. We got it. We have the permit for build a little house, and we stop it, because we see this happen. We apply in 2014, and we have it for 1 year. We got it water, we got it the septic tank, but for 1 year we say stop it because we got animals in the little farm, pretty, and what they're gonna do, I don't think it's right. But I again, period, for the any panel in the area, for Currituck. That's what I want to say.
Joe Etheridge.
I'm Joe Etheridge, 882 Shawboro Road, Shawboro. I'd just like to say that I'm against the text amendment adoption that y'all are considering tonight. Like Jerry Wright said, our family has been here since Marmaduke Etheridge came in sometime between 1692 and 1712 when he married his second wife, and he died in Currituck in 1719. I believe most of the families here who are involved in the potential solar farms are several generations, hundreds of years, been in this county paying taxes. And I think it's completely unfair to make a complete ban and not go on a case-by-case basis. It just seems irrational to me. There's talking with Sun Energy the other day, they told us that the one that we're involved in would provide $180,000 to $200,000 a year income to the county. I don't even understand how you cannot consider that. Had you rather have houses on that 800 acres? Is that what you'd rather consider? And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. John McCauley.
Beg your indulgence.
If you could hurry up every chance you get, we appreciate it.
Just don't start the clock till I'm ready. My name is John McCauley. I live at 236 Grandy Road. While I was a bit surprised at the at PB 1628, I am here tonight in favor of it. You talk about property rights. Everyone's got them. The neighbors have them as well. And everybody's property rights end at the tip of their neighbor's nose. And while some solar arrays may be benign, excuse me, others will have a direct effect on their neighbors, in their location. I think it's safe to say that we wouldn't be here tonight without federally subsidized programs. The recent circulation of information by Mr. Rogers offering financial support and calling into question Chuck Lawler in his support just leads me to believe that there's no limit to what people may do to get their point across and to persuade votes. Mr. Owens may be a magnanimous individual, but I was at the party where he said, "You don't let me do this, I'll put a hog farm in there." So, I don't do business that way. I come from a farming family, but no one supported me over the years. I did it by myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Owen Etheridge.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, staff. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and I appreciate everybody coming out and speaking one way or the other on this text amendment. I have to ask the question, though, why is the county being given preferential treatment on this text amendment? I sat where you sat for 16 years. Not one time did we ever fast track an ordinance amendment for the county. We wouldn't do it for private citizens. So why is the county getting preferential treatment? I know it's been said that the moratorium's running out, but with the fact that you enacted the moratorium on the 3rd of January, and then on the 5th, a memo from Mr. Scanlon to the planning staff saying we want a text amendment to eliminate solar arrays in Currituck County. That's smoke and mirrors, because that tells me and tells anybody with common sense the moratorium was just a red herring, just a ruse to kind of quiet down people, because if that night you'd have voted for the text amendment, you'd have, or voted to have a text amendment come forth, you would have had this room full of people. I've read where you cited certain aspects of the land use plan, and I'll touch on one about energy generating facilities. I was here when that land use plan was written. None of you were, except maybe Mr. Scanlon and the county attorney and Mr. Woody. It was never our intent to outlaw green energy or prohibit it, because we had adopted the Currituck Green Initiative. We had it in other policies where we talked about alternative energy being the wave of the future. It was our firm belief that Currituck had to be future ready to embrace our future. And one of those was through alternative energy. If you look at the Green Initiative, it points out that one of the strategies was alternative renewable energy. You know, we can sit here and debate this, but I have to ask a question. Since the moratorium was initiated on the 3rd of January, have you contacted as a county any outside sources, experts, who could come in and address your technical questions? People like the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, Underwriters provides that. Also, Fire Protection Association. But one thing I just want to touch on, excuse me, this farmland out here that our families own, and there's quite a few in here tonight that's been here for over 100 years owning farmland and paid taxes on. That's our number one asset. An asset just like stocks and bonds and other investments you might hold. The only difference between what you hold and maybe I hold some of them is the simple fact we don't have to ask people's permission to liquidate them if we get into a tough time. And believe me, farmers are at a tough time today. But we have to ask your permission in order to liquidate some of our assets, and that's not right. I believe in freedom of property rights because it is one of the cornerstones of our Constitution, both the U.S. Constitution and the North Carolina Constitution. I ask you to please reject the text amendment, and if you are that tight on time, extend the moratorium if you have to, but don't ban solar arrays. Because if you use toxicity, and somebody's already talked about it tonight, then what are you going to do for residential houses that put these solar panels? Aren't you concerned about toxicity and causing health problems for them? And if sand, which is the major component of the crystalline panels that you've heard about here tonight, is a health concern, Currituck has a major problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Fentress.
Good evening. I had mine down to less than 3 minutes, and it took me 3 days to get it there. I hope you can afford me maybe a little bit more time, as you have several very important people that have come to this podium. One thing I didn't plan on putting in here, which is going to take up some of my time, somebody else was supposed to speak on that. Currituck County is going through a very potential, the very potential of their future now. I've been living here for 30 years, and I've never seen the potential of growth in Currituck that's imminent. Mid-County Bridge, pressure from the north, pressure from the south. Dare is built out. Sooner or later, Currituck Outer Banks will be built out. Where are those amenities going to go? I would like not for this be part of my time because the meat of my problem is the next one. Anyway, I want you to think about that. And if we keep building these Silicon Valleys, so to speak, as ugly as they are, how much tourism and how much growth in the right way will Currituck experience within the next 30 years that these things are going to sit and do nothing? They're stagnant. They don't go to the grocery store. They don't go to the movies. They don't go to the water parks. They don't participate in anything. Nothing. Now, I've heard a lot of people from the solar industry, which I knew would be here, gathering the same old story. It's Groundhog's Day again. I've heard it over and over and over. You have people saying, we do hire people. Where are their W-2s? They offer no hard proof. They haven't through any of the meetings that you have ever had. Don't take them at their word. Hold them, their feet to the fire. Now, the farmers that have come up, I do understand what they're saying. If they own that farm, that's one thing. But the first two that you have permitted are out-of-state owners. And the third that you denied is also an out-of-state owner, Peoria, Illinois. I'm not here to talk about Grandy. There was enough of that on April the 4th. Now I hope my time begins. Mark Twain once said, a lie can run around the world before the truth gets its boots on. I want to expose 5 lies by the solar industry. I wish I had more time. They promised low-cost energy to 1,900 local homes. That's A. They promised training to local labor in a high-tech field and promised sustainable local employment for such jobs for local people. That's ED1. Completely untrue, no matter what they say. C. They said it would substantially increase the county's tax coffers by installation of solar facilities. That's ID1. Completely untrue or grossly exaggerated. Repeatedly, they hammer on the premise saying continued proliferation of solar and wind plants would supplant conventional methods of energy production, rendering them obsolete and unnecessary. E. They continue their mantra, widely publicized by their surrogates, the media, by saying green energy is essential to save the environment and mankind. They say they are the noble saviors willing to spend huge amounts of money to build these facilities to accomplish this goal. They are the selfless good guys. The truth. Mark Twain just got his boots on.
Mr. Fentress, if I can, I'll give you one more minute.
Please, a minute and a half. I'll be brief.
Fair enough.
Low cost of 1,900 homes untrue, prohibited by the national law and complexities of the national grid. No high-tech jobs materialized. In fact, no local labor was used at Scarborough or Moyock and taught high-tech jobs. Some short-term stimulus to the county's tax coffers can occur, but this increase is small in comparison with other more stable, sustainable projects whose value increases over time and not declines. Every other payer in this county pays 100% of its taxes. They pay 20%. When you look through the tax rolls as I have at the tax office, after 15 years, they decline from 94% of their taxes after 20% down to a measly 25% of its value. They are not the noble saviors willing to invest huge amounts of money to build these facilities to save the environment and mankind. Their greed transcends decency, and the truth can be found in the U.S. tax code, put there by past administrations. A 30% tax credit to the total cost of the construction and equipment of the facility is given in the first year. In the Moyock case, this is $60 million. During the following 5 years, they virtually depreciate the remaining $120 million every year. So after 6 years is almost totally free. An $180 million gift by the United States taxpayers. That's all of us.
Mr. Fentress, if I could, please. Tom.
I support the ban.
Thank you. That is all the people that are signed up for the public hearing. Have I missed anybody?
My name wasn't on the list?
Come on up, ma'am. You may have gotten marked off for some reason. I apologize.
I'm Barbara Pasitsky again.
Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Just about as mad as I was a while ago. I am not in support of a solar farm at all. Solar is good for houses, churches, subdivisions, and its appropriate use. It's great. When it occupies 2,000 acres, I am against it totally. It's taking up farmland, it's taking up animal space, it's taking up everything that it shouldn't. It's an irritant to its neighbors, especially when this particular contractor is building it, because he's a fibber. He doesn't do anything he says he's going to do. The berm is not complete, of course. The fence we had to beg for, we had to really get down on him to build the berm. These rackets all night long, the beep, beep, beep. I know it'll go away sooner or later, but it was there for the longest. And it did cost me some sleep The lights, we did submit some pictures. Dishonesty just should not have its place in this type of thing. He wants to make good neighbors, but he doesn't know how. And this is not the kind of people that I want next door to me. I don't want that solar farm. It backs up right up to me. And it's just absolutely no good. As far as the citizens, it's not helping us. It's not helping the common folk at all. It does help the tax credit a little for a little while. But other than that, to me, it is just absolutely money in their pockets, which probably isn't staying in the states anyway. It's probably being shipped out so they don't have to pay U.S. taxes. That's what a lot of companies do, I understand. It's just, if they don't hire locals, they don't work with locals. Yes, some of the companies and businesses in the area are benefiting, restaurants, service stations, the things that are necessary for a working man. And it's the working man coming out of their paycheck that's doing the increase. That the bosses and things that are building this have not been, I don't know how to say this really, really nice and be a lady about it. So they have not been completely honest. If they wanted to build it on a church or on a school or something to where it was practical, I would be totally for it. I had solar when I was in Great Bridge before I moved down here 30 years ago. And it was great. It was wonderful. But not this. It's taking too much away from me and my home and my peace of mind. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will close the public hearing, and I will open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, a couple folks have mentioned tonight that there was a failure to advertise appropriately the meeting before the planning board. Mr. Woody, would you please address that as to whether or not it was advertised? And then, Mr. McCree, if you could confirm whether or not that met the legal requirements for the meeting notices, I'd appreciate that.
The planning board meeting was scheduled and conducted the manner in which all the planning board meetings are, so there's nothing unusual about this case for that. The Unified Development Ordinance in Section 2.3.6, you've got to read the whole section, actually specifies that the planning board conducts public meetings, not public hearings. So it very much outlines that the planning board, in fact, is not conducting a public hearing. It also specifically says that planning board public meetings it says specifically, planning board public meetings do not require public hearing notification. So the short of it is, in the UDO, that our public meetings the planning board holds are not subject to any public notification requirement. So even putting on the website would be more than what would be required by the UDO. And that's consistent with state law in that planning boards don't have to have planning boards don't have to conduct public hearings. So I would offer to the board that it was advertised correctly for the planning board meeting.
I was trying to rely upon the UDO and the planning director's statement that his department conformed with the requirements of the UDO and state law and their regular practice of notifying the public of the planning board meetings.
And then, Mr. Woody, I have another question for you. It's been mentioned several times that land that goes into use as a solar manufacturing facility would have been turned into homes if it had not been converted to that use. We spent almost 2 days during the Board of Commissioners retreat, and one of the things that we received a presentation on, twofold. Probably the best one was based upon, and please correct me if I go astray, based upon projections both mathematically and on the census data, the expectation is over the next 30 years?
20.
That over the next 20 years, based upon the growth that Currituck has experienced and expects to see, that we will be adding approximately 4,100 dwelling units to our county.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Will solar have any effect on whether or not we will be adding 4,100 dwelling units to the county based upon the projections that we've seen?
No.
Okay. That's all I had.
Mr. Woody, I have one question for you, and this is, you may not have the numbers in your head, but prior to January of 2017, how many permits or applications do we have on file for solar farms in Currituck County?
Prior to, you said January 3rd, 2017. Prior to that, we have had a total of 3 submitted, but we had none that were active. 2 were approved, and 1 was recently part of a decision by the Superior Court.
Okay, so for all the land that's being spoken to tonight of possible solar farms, those applications have not come in as far as you're aware of, correct?
We had 1 application that was submitted. It's in close proximity to January 3rd. However, it was determined to be incomplete and was sent back to the applicant.
Okay, so currently, other than the 2 that's
other than that, 3 that we've processed and the 1 that was incomplete, we've had no other applications submitted to the county for a solar project.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I got a few comments I'd like to express just listening tonight. Yeah, and again, I've lived in this county a long time too, and I know a lot of people that spoke here tonight. First of all, let me just say, I'm not against solar energy and any type of alternative energies. I think it's good. It has its place. I also was on the board when we turned down the Grandy site. I didn't think it was an appropriate location, and we recently did a Lower Currituck study, and in that study, there was a lot of concerns about what type of growth, the industries. Nothing really came up about solar energy in the south end of the county. I heard a lot of agricultural growth, farms, and how we can keep agriculture growing. I've also talked to some of the residents in Grandy, some around the proposed site around the old golf course there. And I understand the one in Moyock and Scarborough. The biggest thing I think I've heard tonight is, and I've heard some individuals say, we're not against solar farm, we're against where it's being located at. I think that's the biggest concern I've heard is, so far these solar farms have been near neighborhoods, been by schools, congested areas, main corridors, and those are areas, I don't think that's the county's vision. On the other side of it too, I think if you have 2 homeowners way out long ways from here that have 500 acres and they want to put solar farms, it's only going to affect them too. It's to me, what's that going to hurt, as far as for the community. So I think there's a place for it. I think as a county, we should be trying to come up with ways to help individuals with their land. Not every place is going to be suitable. I don't agree with every application that comes where it's going to be located at. But I do think there's possibly areas that they could be supportive. Again, that being said, there's been a lot of concerns about the current solar farms we've had. I understand that what's happened has brought a bad taste in a lot of individuals that come up here and spoke, and I understand, I can appreciate that. And the commissioner, I was concerned as well. I still am concerned. However, I do think that if whichever way this board decides to go tonight, I think we should give some thought. We've got other businesses that come in here. We're dealing with crabbers and fishermen where they locate their businesses. We had an asphalt plant down there to try to put a plant in. We decided that location wasn't the best, but we gave alternate locations. There's areas for different businesses around here, solar farms, whatever. Not everything's going to be perfect locations, but I guess the point I'm trying to say to the board out here is that we should work on our UDO and our land use plan to, if we're going to deny this, we should look at something in the future that where we could work with our UDO to maybe allow this in certain locations. I don't believe the future of a future complete ban on solar energy is the thing, but I do understand location, homes, developments around schools is probably not the best area to have those. And I think some language is even being offered up from some of the citizens out there that would support something like that. but I think we need to do more work on it as a board. Again, there's good and bad in all this, but I just think I just think there's a place for this if we spend some time on it. That's all I have to say.
And Mr. Chairman, to kind of dovetail on that, I too am not completely against solar. However, and I would suggest to the folks in the audience, if you look at the track record or our record of trying to work with the solar industry on setting aside appropriate constraints, and in fact, that clearly demonstrates the flexibility of our UDO and the ability to get it modified to meet the needs of the community. I will go on record and say I am not in support of permanent banning of solar power in Currituck County, but I will absolutely suggest to you that we need to make sure that we protect not only the owners of property, and I completely understand property rights, but property rights extend beyond just the property that you own to those that surround. And I do not believe we as a county have been successful in protecting the rights of everybody in question. And so I would look forward to working with not only the solar industry, but with the residents of Currituck County and the property owners to come up with what makes sense for the county.
Mr. Chairman, I want to also concur what Commissioner Payment and Beaumont has added, and I want to honestly say in public that I have supported the solar arrays that have come and been approved, and I also want to apologize for making those decisions. And that's because I trust people coming out the gate. And during the times that we made these decisions to approve the solar farms that have in Charborough and in Moyock, I live in Ranchland. That solar farm is directly behind my home. I understand and I hear the noise myself, and I live at the front of the neighborhood. But both of these projects were lessons learned for us as commissioners. Again, as I said, I trust people when they coming out of the gate. When the presentations were given to us, we took people at their word. We didn't vet and put defined information in our motions and in adopting those. So again, it was a lesson learned for each one of us. And again, I'm not against the solar array in Currituck County. I appreciate each and every one of you that have come out and spoken. Your decision tonight, this has been a controversial event each time it's come to be heard, for or against. So again, just be patient with us, and I just concur with what both Commissioner Beaumont and Payment have said, that we need to do something, but what that is, we're not completely there right now, I don't believe.
If I can, they've all said it already. This is not a permanent solution. Banning solar at this time is not a permanent solution. It does allow us some time. It allows us some time to cross some T's and dot some I's, make sure that the places that we put solar are the proper places. It isn't our responsibility to look out for some landowners in this county. It's our responsibility to look out for every single person in this county. That's important to everyone on this board. So keeping that in mind when we make our decision is important. I do have one question for Mr. McCree. Mr. Beaumont had touched on the procedure for the planning board. Did we follow proper procedure throughout this process?
Yes, county has followed the proper statutory and UDO requirements for proper public notice and public hearings.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Hand, can I ask a question, just a yes or no answer? This meeting tonight advertised that this text amendment before it was ever heard by the planning board.
I would refer to Mr. Woody on that.
It was. This meeting was advertised on February 5th and February 15th.
Thank you, Mr. Woody.
Mr. Woody, or I guess our attorney on this. Does the statutes allow us to extend any moratoriums, or are we just, is this just one time and that's it?
No, moratorium may be extended, but you have to utilize the same process in extending the moratorium that you utilized in adopting the ordinance, creating it. So that would necessitate at this point in time, because any extension would exceed 60 days in total, that you advertise your intention of considering an extension of a moratorium no less than 10 and no more than 25 days prior to holding a meeting to consider such an ordinance. You don't have that time prior to this moratorium expiring on March 4th.
I think one of the things that I have a real problem with when I look at a company, and I think most companies want to make a profit, I just can't understand why they don't outright buy the land from the landowner. That makes me think that maybe there's something we don't know. I know a lot of places are saying that the solar panels, landfills won't take them. Say if you had a 100-acre farm and say it sold for $4,000 an acre, you're going to make the farmer or whoever would sell the land for $400,000. Well, if they rent it out like they're trying to do, that's $1.6 million. There's something about it that just worries me.
Floor is still open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PB 16-28 because the request is consistent with the land use plan, because it protects active agricultural lands having a high productive potential and conserves those lands for continued agricultural use, which is Land Use Plan Policy AG1. It does not support the exploration of development of energy-producing facilities within the county's jurisdiction per Land Use Plan Policy ID 9, and the request is reasonable and in the public interest because it prevents incompatible solar array projects from being established that could adversely impact the quality of life for county residents. It promotes the conservation of farmland, which is consistently a community value and need included in adoptive plans. In reference to a February 10th, 2016 report provided by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, it limits the loss of agricultural land and jobs in the county from conversion of agriculturally used property to use for solar arrays and the loss of wildlife habitat due to large areas encompassed by solar arrays that are fenced and affect food availability for wildlife.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Mr. Woody, after this decision is made, can the board refocus and have discussions or meetings with citizens to find out if there is an overwhelming positive or negative towards solar farms, and then possibly work on a restructured UDO and land use plan for possible solar farms in the future?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. With that, we will take a 10-minute recess. Moving on to new business, I'm sorry, we're back in session. New business consideration of resolution of the Board of Commissioners for Currituck County, North Carolina, establishing legislative agenda and request for the introduction of certain local acts by the county's legislative delegation.
Mr. Chairman, the General Assembly has begun its 2017-2018 session, and within the next several weeks, a deadline will approach that by which time the county must have any local act that it requests from the General Assembly to bill drafting and then introduced by our legislators. The board has identified two matters that it would like to seek local authority from the General Assembly to utilize in Currituck County. The first one is one that we actually submitted to the last session of the General Assembly, requesting certain authority to use developer funds for construction of roads to allow for the interconnectivity of subdivision streets. The general statutes allow for a county to accept funds from developers in order to use those funds for development of roads within the subdivision or within the development that the developer is constructing. But in the county statutes and under the county's current authority, requires the county then to give those funds to a municipality within the county, and then the municipality will go forward to construct those streets and roads. Well, of course, Currituck County is one of, I think, 2 counties now in North Carolina that does not have a municipality, and so therefore we are unable to utilize this authority that are given to counties statewide. So what we are requesting would be the authority given to municipalities in a similar statute, that we could take funds from a developer and the county then could utilize those funds either to contract out the construction or development of streets and roads within a subdivision or other development, or do a similar type of contract with the Department of Transportation. That will help us in 2 ways. First of all, it will help us to facilitate the required interconnectivity between subdivisions as they are developed. Currently, if we have 2 subdivisions adjoining one another, one developer may come in and develop the first tract of land, then leave a gap after they've constructed their roads that there's no way to complete by the second developer because of the legal inability to come onto the first developer's property or to cross ditches and to complete the connectivity. This would allow us to have funds from the subsequent developer or even the original developer to do that. And secondly, this may well help us with the mega site project in that we would have the ability to accept funds from the various entities that may become part of the development process in the mega site, and then allow the county to help facilitate the road improvements as future properties within the mega site area develop. The second piece of legislation that the board has asked, says that it would like to ask the General Assembly for are certain life safety provisions relative to single-family residential dwellings that are 5,000 square feet or greater in size. The life safety measures that the board would request would be 13D residential sprinkler systems, which I understand from our building inspector designed for residential structures. Deck and floor loading that's equivalent to non-residential building loading requirements, because we are indeed concerned about these large structures and the type of events that may occur there, the number of people who are utilizing decks or other structures that might collapse with the load that is there. And then secondly, exit lighting in these residential structures to make sure, in particular in areas where persons are renting these buildings for a week period of time and may not have some familiarity with the structure in which they are residing for that week, should a fire event break out, there is going to be some ability for the persons inside the structure to find an exit to leave the structure. And so this resolution then is commended to you for your consideration and approval. Should you adopt it, then staff would forward the resolution to our legislative delegation, Representative Steinberg and Senator Cook, and ask that they introduce the appropriate legislative language and support its adoption by the General Assembly.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution presented by our county attorney.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? If I could, Mr. McCree, you are referring to large residential structures, correct?
That's
Over-
correct.
Over 5,000 square feet?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I have. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Next item is board appointments. I would move to reappoint Stephen Currituck to the planning board. He's currently serving and does a magnificent job and is eager to continue serving.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept that nomination for reappointment for Stephen Currituck to the planning board.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to, there are two other appointments for consensus. I would like to postpone making a decision on those until we discuss the reorganization considerations that we discussed during our work session.
Very well.
I'll make that motion that we hold off on those consensus nominations, as Commissioner Gilbert says, until we determine, or second, yes, I'm sorry, second, sorry. Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion
Mr.
passes.
Chairman, that application for the library board from Lee, was that, I saw you send it to me. Did that get sent to everybody? Okay. Okay, if you would please forward that application to the rest of the board.
Sure can.
She'll be my nomination to fill the vacant seat on the library board. Leanne will be sending
Okay.
her application.
Okay. Next item will be the consent agenda.
Motion for approval.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Commissioner's report. Commissioner Payment?
Just that the Lower Currituck had another controlled burn last Saturday. I was part of that. We had a good turnout. It was a very good burn in Worthgard. Yeah, unfortunately, it was an older home, some historical value. It was an old school, but it was beyond repair. And but the owners were there. They were very supportive. They wanted to give some donations to the fire department. We had multiple fire departments turn out. Again, it was a good training for young people, older people as myself. So always can use the training, but always can use volunteers. So just keep your fire departments in mind. It is volunteer out there. So if you can support them in any capacity, I know they'd love to hear from you. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilbert?
Most of what I needed to say, I said during the report for the senior center, but I do want to extend condolences to George Ryan and his family, and to Moyock United Methodist Church, where he was a member, and he just put a tremendous fight for his battle with cancer, and I just applaud him and his family, and he's just surely going to be missed.
Thank you. Commissioner Beaumont?
Oh, I have nothing.
Commissioner Etheridge?
I'll serve on the Social Services Advisory Board, and DSS is happy to report that they received sufficient funding and child care subsidy, so there's no termination had to be made due to this budget shortfall.
Outstanding. Thank you. I have nothing this evening. County Manager's report?
Mr. Chairman, I actually have two things tonight. The first one is a topic that we get questions from the community quite often regarding internet service and the lack thereof in our county. We are working in partnership with the Albemarle Commission, who currently has a broadband study survey that is posted on the county website as well as the Albemarle Commission website. The purpose of that study is to determine the need for broadband internet in Currituck County and at what speeds and at what cost people are willing to pay for that. The data generated through that survey will help Currituck County as well as other areas in the region to apply for funding to try to resolve some of this issue and hopefully help Currituck County recruit maybe another third-party provider that will come in that can address the shortfall we have in internet service in the county. The second item is the county's in the process of applying for a hazard mitigation grant as a result of Hurricane Matthew. Anybody who has experienced flooding in their primary residence and would be looking or be interested in having federal assistance to elevate or raise the elevation of their house could possibly be an applicant for this grant. And so we are having a series of hearings with the community to explain further the program and to take interest from the community. The first meeting is going to be February 27th here at the courthouse from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night. We'll have a meeting March 1st from 3 to 6 at the county office in Corolla, and on March 9th from 3:30 to 6:30 at Knott's Island Community Center. This information will also be posted on the county's website.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.